Hello.
Hello. How's it going there?
What's up, Steven?
It's good. It's good. It's a good morning so far. It's nice, bright and early in San Diego. Uh, I got distracted looking at the stream on the other window here. It threw me off. How's
Where
it
should
going,
I be?
everybody?
Where should I be looking for if I'm trying to stay on top of questions and stuff? I forget.
Oh no, you're fine. You just make awesome art, and then I'll take care of wrangling questions for you.
Okay.
Yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know, this whole live stream is in support of the victims of the most recent disaster in Maui. We're trying to do a little bit of fundraising and answer some questions for you guys. You don't necessarily have to be a participant in one of Scott's awesome mentorships. Right now, you're getting it free for the low price of helping out Maui. So thanks for being here, guys. There'll be a couple links in the description. Scott is selling a print, and 100% of the funds from the sales of that on his Gumroad go to the what's the foundation here? It's Maui Strong,
The
right?
Maui Strong Fund. Yeah.
Yeah, 100% of those go to that. So if you guys like any of Scott's art, which I'm sure that you do, this is a great piece, has a connection to Maui that I'm sure we'll go into. If you're here in the future and you're assuming that the Maui Strong Fund isn't happening anymore, it might still be. Go check it out. If you have a couple bucks, donate. See if you can help some people out.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely still going.
Sorry, in the future,
okay,
like 2 months from now or something.
Yeah. And also, just so you guys know, if you're really just interested in helping people out, like just donate directly to the Maui Strong Fund, and you can see the link in the YouTube channel below.
Yeah.
Like, don't buy the print. If you want some art, buy the print. If you don't want the art, just just donate directly.
Yeah,
just want to make that clear at the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a link here in the description for both of those options for you guys. Anything is appreciated.
Yeah.
So, Scott, what is the connection between this piece and Maui?
Well, it's really just the jungly background stuff, just that information. That's the truth. Most of the art I do is like monsters and warriors and things like that. So I was just trying to find a piece where, for this particular fundraiser that felt somewhat, adjacent or related in some way. And I have family out in Maui in Hana. I have an aunt out there.
Oh.
She's a teacher. Yeah, she lives out there. Hana's on the east side, and it's pretty green and wet and lush, and they were not affected by the fires, but she has a boyfriend she's been with for quite a while out there, and his family, like, they're local people, and a lot of them live in Lahaina, and so a lot of them are affected really severely. And so we've been in contact. I've been just getting updates on how things have gone for them, and I was just trying to think of a way to do, all of us individually in our family were donating a little bit, just sending money through Venmo. And I just started thinking, like, I wonder if I could do something cooler. Just like, is there a way I could do something a little extra? And this occurred to me to be, a good way to do it. So, I chose this image because it I don't know, it made more sense than any of the other ones. That's the actual truth. It's just like, well, this is the only one that's like kind of pretty and not like a giant mutated monster.
That's fair. When you said, I wonder if I could do something extra, I was like, Scott, I've seen your work. All of it is extra.
Thanks, bro.
So there are a couple of things here in the chat. We do have a question right off the bat.
Cool.
Someone said, "Who is this lumberjack man?"
Oh.
Yeah, Scott.
Hey guys,
if
I'm
Scott
Flanders.
If they don't know who you are,
I'm a concept artist, art director. Done a whole bunch of things. Been working in video games over the last now it's like I think over 10 years. I got my start working on a video game called Evolve. It was I don't know if you guys ever heard about it. Maybe look it up.
It was a good game. It was a team shooter, right?
Thanks. Yeah, team shooter, asymmetrical team shooder. Giant monster versus a team of hunters. Anyway, so that was a big project for me where I got my start and learned a whole bunch. I did a lot of creatures and characters and really all kinds of things. Learned so much.
Yeah. I think your work definitely showed through in the designs of things in that game.
Thanks, man. So that's where I started. Then I worked at Riot for a while, Riot Games. Did contract work for them for a while remotely. Worked on League of Legends. Worked on characters like Zoe, the little girl, and did stuff for Pike and Zaya and Rakan, and I can't even remember other ones. But eventually, I ended up working on Legends of Runeterra, and I
Okay.
went over and worked on that like in house on campus at Riot, and had a pretty good experience there. Learned a whole bunch, met a lot of wonderful people, but eventually felt it was time to move on.
Yeah.
And so yeah, stopped doing that, and then I've been working independently like since then, doing the whole independent artist thing. Teamed up with Stan, and I've got a Proko course with Stan. Just done all kinds of videos with them with him at this point.
Yeah, for anyone who hasn't seen Scott's stuff, Scott is actually the instructor in our most recent, most popular main channel video. The one that was one of your critique videos has
really?
just gone over fantastically. It was great.
Fine. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Usually the critique videos from different courses, they don't necessarily blow up on YouTube because people they kind of assume that this video isn't going to be something that's just for them, But
Yeah.
that critique video, it's doing beautifully because of the amount of knowledge that you shared in that one. So
That's cool, dude. Yeah, I really like doing that stuff. I like those. The course has been a good thing. I've enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah. No.
Anyhow, yeah. So yeah, I've been doing all kinds of things since I left Riot, bro. Just taking all kinds of risks. I started an outsourcing company with some former students and friends of mine, Tarpit Studios, and we started that company 1 week before COVID lockdowns happened. Like I started a company 1 week before COVID happened.
It's always a good time.
Yeah, it was like terrible. so like basically, there's problems there in terms of. Anyway, so yeah, I did that for a bit. That was pretty fun, but learned some things. Learned that an outsourcing company is not necessarily a super great business model in Southern California.
It is expensive. It's expensive.
Did that for a while. Anyways, yeah, done all kinds of stuff. So
Yeah,
that's what I do.
absolutely.
Concept artist, specialize in characters, creatures, weapons, monsters. That's my favorite stuff.
Yeah.
That's probably what we're going to do today. Oops.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You do some monsters.
Yeah. So outside of the things that we were showing with that print that you had done for this, I think the other thing that we wanted to make sure and get in early is that you need help from the people in the chat.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, it's true. I don't know how many of you guys are in there, but I need some ideas. I mean, I could just, come up with something crazy right now, but I thought it would be more fun if we do a bit of idea generation together. So again, it would be helpful if I could just see what people are throwing down. I guess I'm just going to start a bit of like a text list over here.
Are you looking for just single words from the people in the chat here?
Yeah, exactly. Like prompts. Let me get this started.
Yeah, you guys can ask some questions here and there. Like I had mentioned in the chat, if you're going to ask a question, just put a little Q in the beginning of it, just so I can like kind of separate it out from things a little bit more. But yeah, drop some words as an example of some of the things that Scott's done. Just before we started this stream, he showed me a thing that he's making for something that just has two normal home goods put together, some normal tools put together into a weapon. It's beautiful. And I'm excited for you guys.
Steven, that's NDA, dog.
Yeah, no, I'm being very careful about this. I didn't even say the implements.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, these are secrets.
Yes. Okay, so yeah, what should I draw? I'm just starting this out. Those of you who have taken my course or watched any of the videos where I actually go through the process of generating ideas, you've seen that I usually use an 11 by 17 sheet of paper. I'm doing a lot of just like writing of notes and small thumbnail sketches. I'm probably not going to do so much of the thumbnail sketches. We have a limited time today, so I'm probably just going to, generate a list of prompts, try to find some that are interesting. I might ask you guys some follow-up questions, just like prod you a bit on what you mean, in terms of those prompts. See if we can come up with something cool, and then I'll just dive right into it. Probably.
Okay. Yeah, so here so far, there's definitely someone who's taken one of your courses because the first thing that they mentioned is pumpkin. Another person here, Kramek, is saying that they like to see something fluid. Yeah. To John, he was saying add a volcano in the back. I think he's talking about the art in that print. That's not one that we're going to be modifying. That's the print that's on sale, just so you guys can see.
Yeah. The print is just, that print is actually, just so you guys know, I don't know how many people are even tuned in right now, but um, that was actually like a preliminary sketch, like an exploration in preparation to work on another image. So I
Mhm.
never really shown this image before, because it's also done in a style that I don't typically work. It was just for fun. It was an experiment to help me figure out something I was doing for a project with this guy Spiridon. You guys maybe have seen Spirit Dude on Instagram. He's a like a book publisher.
Mhm.
Really good dude, creative guy. He does a lot of good work with a bunch of artists in the industry, helps them publish books.
Hmm.
And he did a book called, which one was this for? This was for hardcover. Hardcover is kind of like a hmm, it's a little not safe for work, but basically it's like hmm, yeah, I'll just leave it at
Yeah,
that.
yeah. There's
but
there's
but
there's a
these are
romance and things follow.
yes, exactly, yeah. Um, so this was a preliminary exploration for that, where I was just trying out some different techniques, and I never really had intent to use it in this way. Like I said, it just sort of made sense to me in the moment, and I was
Mm.
looking for something that was, in a lot of my teaching, I'm often trying to encourage people to harness their memories and nostalgia in their work, like tap into the information that they're already carrying with them, because
Mhm.
they're more likely going to be able to um, find something special there that they can bring into their work. And in the case of this piece, it was 100% influenced in the background, just the tone, by memories I have of exploring places like Maui and Hana, and with with my son's mother back in the day,
Mhm.
and places like Costa Rica, Cambodia, just places, places that are beautiful and
Mhm.
tropical and humid.
Yeah, I think those are some of the most potent things is that nostalgia. Do
Yeah.
do you want some more words from the chat here?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've got birds with several S's,
Birds.
joust. I think there was dinosaur,
Okay, okay. I like that.
horses. More requests for birds. Everyone's asking for birds early on in this chat. So
Interesting.
take that for what it's worth. Someone getting hyper specific. Ness here saying humpback whale leviathan.
Humpback whale leviathan.
Yeah.
What's interesting is I was just reading about humpback whales, like for some reason. Like, I was reading
Just
about
because.
humpback whales like yesterday, and I was thinking like, because I saw a bunch of whales this summer up in Monterey, and with my son, and some of the ones we got to see were humpback whales, and I
Mhm.
was thinking like they're pretty different from a lot of other baleen whale species,
Absolutely.
and the fact that they have these really big long pectoral fins, which most of the other baleen whales don't have. Like all of them, none
Mhm.
of them have these really long fins. And I was thinking like, I wonder if they could fight with those. And I was thinking that, but I was thinking that because I was thinking the fact that orcas will, they prey on a lot of the baleen whale species. And I
Mhm.
was thinking, bro, I wonder if humpbacks could, like, you
I'll
know,
take them.
throw down. Yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
with
these are
those
like the
fins.
enforcers of the baleen whales.
Yeah, this is important stuff I think about. So
Yeah.
I started looking it up, and it's totally true. And then I was found some articles where there's some marine biologists and whale watching tours that have observed humpback whales pursuing orcas and chasing them down, and
Interesting.
basically like fighting them off, and even protecting other species of animals, like non mammal, like
Like some seals
non
kind of things or
yeah,
something
seals,
something
even
else?
fish like mola
Huh.
mola, and where they'll actually like come out of nowhere and chase off orca whales. It's pretty cool. You
Okay.
guys should look it up. But it's
Okay.
because they have those big fins, and some scientists are thinking that those are an evolutionary adaptation that has made them like it's basically helped them deal with orcas where no other species can do that. And if you ever seen
Absolutely.
on their fins, they have these like big knobs or like
Mhm.
bumps, so it's almost like a mace, and some of those get covered with barnacles and stuff. They can
Yeah.
like straight up like slash.
I'll do some
Anyways,
damage.
that was
No,
cool. I was
I
reading about
think
humpback whale,
honestly,
orca whale wars, so thank you for that.
yeah, no, I think thinking about stuff like reading some little tidbit of information or listening to some story from like NPR or anything like that, that's the stuff that you file away to
Hmm.
use for creative kit bashing.
Yeah,
I think
exactly. Yeah.
people don't let that stuff in. They just want to look at stuff that's interesting visually. Um, so we got Cerberus,
Cerberus.
Hydra, and Symbiote.
Fun.
Cyborg, Spider King. I think I'm a fan of because there's a few different ways to take that.
There's a comic. Do you know about that comic, Spider King?
Spider King? It's a recent one, right?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Spider King comic. Yeah,
Mhm.
I forget the name of the artist. So it's
Yeah,
pretty cool. Art
I
stuff's
think
pretty cool.
it seems like you and I are fans of the same comics. When we had talked about bringing Daniel Warren Johnson into the course, I heard that you were
Oh,
also.
for real?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. That guy's like my favorite comic artist. He's the man, dude.
He's a champion. It's true.
Yeah, that's true.
So you got here a deer with adorned horns,
Deer
which
with
I appreciate on a
horns.
couple levels. It's got
I know,
that little
that's
bit of a
yeah.
rhyme scheme.
Adorned horns. I'm not gonna do that one. That's like too Dr. Seuss, and I can't do that.
That's fair.
Right.
There are a lot of different words in here. How many more are you looking for right now? You want to just keep going through them, or do you
Yeah,
are you satisfied?
Yeah, no. To be honest, let's keep
Okay.
going for a bit.
All right,
Go ahead.
Nordic, unicorn,
Oh, unicorn. Interesting.
hunter, tropical yeti, princess chimera, divine, horses, shackles.
Okay, I think I might have found one.
Okay, you feel it?
Yeah, I'm feeling it.
Okay.
Maybe right here, unicorn. So I'm teaching some workshops this fall, and one of them is designing monsters. And the first exercise is, I guess, a bit of a spoiler, but whatever, for people taking that course. But the first exercise is a bit of like a test or a challenge, and it's basically going to be to try to take the idea of a unicorn and turn it into a monster. It's the first part of the course is identifying what attributes actually make a monster. Like, what are the things that make something monstrous? And then once we've identified those, take those and try to apply them to a unicorn. So, yeah, I think we're going to go there. That's kind of crazy and funny.
Yeah, you have experience with this one. You're prepped for this.
Yes, that's right. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to minimize this image here, guys. Again, if you'd like to get some art and do something good, you can go, check out this print in my Gumroad store. 100% of the proceeds from the sales of this print will be donated to the Maui Strong Fund. Right before this stream, I wanted to make sure I had everything figured out. And so basically I went through and I took the money from the, that had been generated from the print sales already and donated it. And as you can see, it's not that freaking much. So, this is the truth.
We could use some help.
We could use some help. Yeah, exactly. These are from the print sales. And it's kind of embarrassing, to be honest, because I was like trying to do something cool. And it's like, fuck, only 200.
Hey, no. Before this, there was nothing there. There was nothing there before.
That's true. Yeah, but I'm not showing my credit card number. But made our first donation. Hopefully we can make some more money, and then I'll donate that as well. So this was just our first official payment. So anyways, but those of you who did buy a print, there's only like, I don't know, 20 people or something. But those of you who did, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. It was cool of you. And your money's going to something good. So again, those of you who want to print, that'd be cool. And the extra leftover money, after the print gets created, that will go to Maui Strong Fund. But if you just want to donate more directly, if you're just interested in, being generous right now, just make the direct donation. That'd be really cool too.
There's a link on the bottom of the screen right now. I've just had it flashing the whole time. And then if you guys just want to be able to click it rather than type it yourself, it's right here in the description.
Okay, so let's get into some idea generation stuff. Let's make some art. So I got my hard pencil here. We said unicorn. I'm going to drop this off. Unicorn. So those of you, again, who have taken the course before, usually I'll do some initial, I'll take stock of everything I know about the given subject matter first. So when it comes to unicorns, what do we know about unicorns? So you guys, if you could type that in the chat, you could prompt Stephen. What do we know about unicorns? What are some attributes of a unicorn?
I think I'll get ahead of the main one I think they're going to say here. The one horn.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The one horn. That's the kind of classic, right? One horn, single horn. That's cool.
I love a duo corn.
A duo corn, that's funny. That's so funny. That's stupid, dude. I like it. It's just like a goat, dude. Okay, what else we got?
He's magical, horn, one horn, beautiful, Uh, equine.
Ooh, fancy terms. Okay.
Yeah,
Horse.
colorful, pink fluffy unicorn dancing on rainbow. That's a preference. Have a unicorn, quadrupedal, celestial, pure creature, rainbow. Oh, also, there's someone here said mount, which I do appreciate them calling out that it can be written.
Yeah, it's true. Ken.
Thinking outside the box.
A lot of
Pure.
times, I think there are a lot of times depicted as white, like the color white. Not always. I guess I've seen sort of pink ones and stuff, but I think white. They usually like appear to people who are pure in heart, right? That's like a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Appear to those who are pure of heart. Ooh, so that gets me thinking. It's like, what about in this sort of hardcore monster universe? This messed up unicorn shows up to those who are pure of heart, but it's so funny because this is like for a fundraiser stream, but whatever. It's supposed to
That's
be
fine.
all wholesome, but this, so, but I guess that's appropriate for.
Yeah.
I mean, so
If there's a Pan's Labyrinth, Guillermo del Toro fundraiser stream, it would still be dark as hell.
That's true. That's true. Okay, gotta be yourself. So yeah, this guy would appear to those who are pure of heart, and he would eat them. Yeah, that's fun. Okay, so that's cool. And eat them.
Yeah.
Cool. So I'm getting somewhere. Okay, now that's pretty good. Just as a story, we know they have hooves. Hooves is a thing. You know, think of hooves. That's a good, like a design element. Horse skull. Someone said equine, but then just kind of building on that. Like, what do you get from something? Like, what identifies something as equine or equine? It's that skull is pretty important part of it. Seeing that horse skull shape and the hooves, the mane probably horse skull. The mane muscular.
Mm-hmm.
Those are, when I think of horses, like those are some of the things that come to mind. They're large and powerful. You know, the reason I'm doing this, or here I'm sort of like, for those watching, I'm sort of like taking stock of the my like attribute points, you know, or the currency that I'm then going to use in my design. These are the things I'm going to be able to use, or I think I should definitely use in the design to make sure that we hit upon that idea of a unicorn, that it comes across. Horse skull, mane muscular, large. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I like. So the thing that we're going with so far is that these unicorns will appear to someone who's pure of heart, but in this dark universe.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Okay. So
exactly.
The thing I kind of like lean to, and tell me if this is too generic or too done, but is that like some part of the orbital bone kind of area is exposed.
That's true.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is it actually on horses?
Oh no, I'm saying like if like it's exposed to the air. The skin is pulled back over the face.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think I'm thinking of one horrific video I saw a long time ago.
Yeah, there was a design I worked on for Legends of Runeterra. It's this like crazy nightmare horse. I wonder if we can find it. It's pretty cool.
I don't think I've looked at any of your work that you had done on Runeterra.
Well, I didn't do this illustration work. Like these were illustrators that we worked with, that we'd like contract to do the illustrations. I'd like designed the creatures and come up with like the prompts and, you know, just basically come up with the idea for the thing, and then we would here it is, the Dusk Rider. Cool. Yeah, I have to give credit where credit was due. I did not make these sick illustrations. I just designed it.
I mean, I think you giving someone else the thing that they then go and build.
This is pretty cool. This was like the initial sketch, you know, the illustrator sent back.
Mm-hmm.
And I love this creature, but he had this critter had the exposed. Here we go. Here's the illustration. Yeah, this guy is sick, dude.
No, I like it.
Evil nightmare pony.
Also, it's a great a great way of colorizing from just the value drawing that they had that we saw before this. That's good. Subtle colors.
I can't remember if this was SMV, Six More Vodka, Marko Djurdjevic's company. I can't remember if it was them, or we had a couple other vendors as well. They did a majority of the illustration work on that game. They're like an amazing team. They're crazy good. But there were some other people too, and I just forget the name, everyone's name. Anyways, flayed horse. I don't think that's how you spelled flayed. That's how you spell plaid.
Yeah, I'm not judging. I'm not judging.
A plaid horse. Okay. Cool. Okay. Next thing we do. This was like establish precedents. Basically, a part of that part of the process. If you've taken the course, or it's where we're like taking stock of things, existing attributes or observations or places in pop culture where we've encountered those creatures before. We're basically like identifying expectations. What do we have to get down for people to understand we're doing unicorn? Okay, but then the next thing we do is like areas of opportunity. This is something I like to do. How can we make a unicorn different? So this is where it becomes a little more of an exercise for you guys to participate in this brainstorming. So how can we take a unicorn and turn it on its head, so to speak, or invert it and make it more interesting? How do we contribute to the dialogue, the discussion of what a unicorn is in our popular art culture? So let's go. What could we do?
Well, since we're on a delay, what do you think is the first thing for you in this one? And then people will start filling things in the chat here.
Well, one thing is, they're usually shown as quadrupeds. So like four, they've got like 4 legs. So change like the core body structure. From quadruped. That's a thing we could do. And I'll leave that with a question mark. That's one thing we could do. We mentioned that they have hooves. We could change from hooves or redesign what hooves mean. Change hooves.
Have you seen the thing that comes to mind for me? I don't know how this would read with a hoof that's actually making contact with the ground, but it's the way that horses' hooves are when they are first coming out of the womb.
I have not seen that.
Okay, don't bring it up on here. Open it on a different window because this is a scarring image. But
I don't know, bro.
they come out like pulpy. Like they have
serious?
like these like fleshy bits that can look kind of like the inside of like a juicier orange when you tear the actual sections apart. Yeah, so I kind of think of that, like, because but I don't know how you'd really necessarily show that.
Whoa. What? That's crazy. Interesting.
Yeah, I think it's something about it not being like a hard, more fibrous, like it's a more fibrous thing that will become something hard and rigid later. But in the womb, you don't want them to have like little like stampy hammer knives to beat up the inside of the mother with.
That's true. That's true.
Um,
They still have the nail, the outer sheath on the front part of it, but then you have the sort of interior portion, and back is all that pulpy stuff. That's interesting because, you see them like they can, they'll stand up, like they'll be born and they'll stand up, and sometimes they'll start to move around and stuff. Dang.
So some of the things that people are saying here, I'll say the things, but I don't know if they're necessarily the things you're looking for. People are saying a sword weapon horn, skeleton, one antler, not a horn. And they're talking. Are we taking this into a space where anything would be colored, or are we going to be doing?
I'll probably just be in grayscale. On silhouette, I'll probably, I'll probably do some of the lateral exploration stuff where I'll try out a couple of these ideas. I'll get something going initially quickly, and then we'll futz with it. We'll iterate on it. So antler horn, that's an interesting one. Weapon horn is a cool one.
Blood spitting from the unicorn's mouth.
Ew. Sick.
Samurai armor. Rexy Rex is saying, let's give it samurai armor. Unicorn covered in the heart. This is Charlie from Proko. Unicorn covered in the hearts harvested from the pure hearted.
Oh my God. Oh, the heart Dude, the heart could be skewered on the horn.
Okay, I like this. I like this.
This is what I'm talking about. This was like, just so you guys know too, those of you watching, like if you're like a younger artist or haven't had a chance yet to work on a team and stuff, this is part of what's fun about working on a team. You know, when you're in a like a conference room or whatever, you get together with a couple of your collaborators, is you can spitball in this way,
Hmm.
and that's actually what part of what we're doing when we write things down. That's part of what's happening. Like when you write things down, even if you're alone, you create an opportunity for yourself to, to kind of like take a step back, look at the things you've written,
Hmm.
and then, build upon them or riff on them. So
Yeah,
covering
especially
heart,
nothing gets dismissed. Like there's things in here that you have with a question mark.
yeah.
Some of those you might just like jump clean past, but there's still considerations. Overgrown hooves also start turning around weirdly like long nails, I believe. Overgrown hoof is kind of an interesting one.
Yeah.
Um, Maybe even use predatory cat legs.
Oh, that's fun.
Maybe a bit more robust frame, similar to a rhino, which is a true unicorn, they say.
That's true. That's true. Someone's
Mhm.
getting fun nerdy over there. I like it. Robust
uh,
body. Dude, there's a cool, speaking of that, okay. There's a neat old, now if you Google elasmotherium, right down here.
yeah, I was gonna say you gotta write that one out
Check
or
this out.
something.
Elasmotherium. This is
It
the
sounds like a
old
it sounds like a coin.
single-horned, hairy, like woolly rhinoceros
Oh,
it's a Siberian woolly rhinoceros, and it had a giant. You guys should look it up. It has a giant horn, one single. And there was a European woolly rhinoceros that had two horns, but Elasmotherium had a giant, like one crazy like mountain spike horn,
hmm.
apparently, and it was tall. It was like almost like the height of a horse. It had longer limbs and it was woolly and had this massive horn. And apparently there's some records from Russian knights, I believe, from a long time ago, like in the medieval period, of guys encountering what they describe as a unicorn, and they basically describe Elasmotherium. And that was like a
Interesting.
period where there might have some paleontologists think that some of them could have existed still.
Yeah.
Should look it up. It's pretty cool. There's like one particular night where there's like a written account of his adventures. I
Huh.
think, and he
Okay.
mentions um, this creature. But yeah, it's basically a big, robust unicorn.
Yeah. We have another suggestion here. This makes me think of something very specific, but they said maybe lightning between its horns, like a Tesla cage. And so I'm thinking of like a Hercules beetle
Hmm.
for the horn, and then some kind of like energy in between those two
Oh,
tips.
interesting. Yeah, like,
And then
and then it's like,
mini, yeah, like it's just got some kind of thing crackling in there. Um, but yeah, maybe insect legs, like a beetle. Uh, Maybe or have the horn protrude from the lower jaw, angled up or straight. Could be long or short. And another one,
whoa,
horn is like an anvil, body glows like a forge. That sounds like a song lyric.
yeah, horn. That's interesting. The horn projecting like a tusk, projecting from lower jaw. There's a pig called the Babirusa that it kind of works like that. Its tusks grow into its skull. They grow, instead of growing down, they grow up, and they grow out through the top of the muzzle. You guys should
Mhm.
look it up as a I think it's how you pronounce it. Babirusa. Babirusa. It's like an Indonesian pig, I think.
Hmm.
From skull. Okay. Okay, we got some stuff here.
Feeling good?
Yeah, feeling good. Obviously you could keep going. Like in a real work environment, I would personally like keep going just because, I want to like really, I like to exhaust the ideas, and that's when I usually come up with like genuinely cool stuff. Is when I've allowed myself to go down the rabbit hole for a little bit, at least a couple hours. But usually I'll be doing this and sketching, so I'll be doing little thumbnail sketches as well,
Mhm.
and then I'll take the best ideas from that and then expand on them. For now, I like this, changing the body from quadruped. I like the idea of the elasmotherium. Not that I'm gonna. I like the idea of a little bit of wooliness. Could be an
Mm.
interesting touch, like on the lower parts of the body.
Yeah, I think usually like the woolliness kind of also implies like a more
Creepiness.
brutish strength also.
Yeah, exactly. Heart skewered on horn is cool.
Thanks, Johnny.
Overgrown hooves, blood spitting, sick. Antler horn, sick. Weapon horn. Ooh, I like that kind of stuff. Or I could take the horn. It's not that I'm gonna make it like, like fantasy League of Legends, like this, do all that shit.
Yeah.
That stuff's cool. For in this case, what I'm thinking is something more like pieces of metal, like weapons have been,
Mhm.
like the stuff I was just doing, Steven,
Yeah.
earlier before the call, where you're taking bits of weapons and like mounting them onto the horn
Mhm.
and then like bolting them in place like hammers and axes and shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
A Dead
Cool.
Rising unicorn. I like it.
Yes, there we go. So here we go. This is how we try to raise money to help people and
Absolutely.
by making
You're doing the
ridiculous.
perfect thing right now, Scott. I was about to do this.
Oh my god.
Again, just a reminder to everyone here, the thing that brings us here is trying to raise some money for the victims of the recent disaster in Maui. There's a link here on the screen that you guys can see. There's also a link in the description and in this chat. Anything you guys can give will help. There's prints for sale, but if you don't want to buy a print, it's okay. They can still use your money. Please help. Let's do drawing.
Yeah, let's do drawing. Yeah, exactly, guys. Again, so I've got the print here. If you're a fan of my art, or you just would, if you'd like to get something for your donation, you can get a cool print, and your money, 100% of the funds that are generated from purchase of this print will be donated to the Maui Strong Fund. If you're just feeling really generous and you'd like to focus on helping people, or you're not interested in this print, you could just donate more directly, and there's a link in the YouTube, the post body, I guess, right?
Yeah. And you guys are doing fantastically in there right now, but they can always use more. There are a lot of people affected. Please.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm gonna be doing that basically for the rest of summer. So I guess I don't know, when does summer end? I don't know. I'm just gonna keep doing that for a while until I don't know. I'll just keep doing it.
Jimmy Buffett rules. Summer never ends. As long as this print's on sale, it'll be.
That's funny. Okay, here we go. Do some sketches here. So I like the idea of the non-quadruped thing. I think that's kind of funny. Like a big fan of minotaurs in general, just as a motif. And let's see here, minotaurs, and I like the idea of like a horse-headed minotaur instead of just a bull. Be a horse creature. Big fan of mutants and things.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so this is this going to stay standing upright? Because I already love it.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'm basically kind of cheating, to be honest, because I've been thinking for this. I have to think through my classes. I'm teaching these workshops coming up, and I have to like prep a little bit in my mind and get in the just get things figured out. Oh, I have to save this file. Sometimes Photoshop, it's tripping out on me. See this, guys?
Oh, this is with the black areas around it.
Yeah, and like the image becomes work. Let me close Photoshop and open it again really fast.
Okay.
What was I saying? Oh, so usually I prep a little bit. I do some thinking about what I'm going to do. And that is the challenge, the first challenge on day one for the designing monsters class. And the rest of the class, they're going to choose one monster from like the classic Universal Monsters roster and a few others. They'll have the choice to choose between. And then for the remainder of the class, they will be focusing on redesigning that creature in a meaningful way, like really trying, not just like, oh, I did Dracula and now he's got a different bat head. It's like, we're going to really rethink what it means to be the Wolfman, or to redesign the creature from the Black Lagoon or the Mummy or Mothman, whatever. And Frankenstein is one of those. But anyways, the first part of the class is, where's my tool here?
It's just that iteration phase.
What's going on here with my tools?
It's photoshopping.
It is photoshopping on it. What the hell?
For you guys in the chat, I do have a bunch of your guys' questions stored up right now. I have like there's just several of them in here. But if you guys do have some that you want to make sure get asked, feel free to drop them in the chat. Yeah, every once in a while, there's just that time that Photoshop's just not playing nice.
Yeah, it basically opened up. It defaulted to a different version of Photoshop. Like I downloaded the beta version
Yeah.
where they're trying out a bunch of the generative AI tools,
Mhm.
and I tried that out. But basically, so I've been working in that one, and then it defaulted back to the other one where I have a different bunch of tool presets.
Yeah.
And anyways, okay. So yeah, unicorn first. Got my unicorn here.
Now, do you imagine this one having arms? Because
Oh yeah,
like
yeah,
front
oh
arms?
yeah. He's gonna have front arms for sure.
Because right now it's almost the exact posture of my dog when he stands. And he has his like little tiny little legs up. And so I kind of get to that spot, but that's just my own bias. Oh, that's one you can play with. If the back legs, if like the thing that you expect for a horse is that it's a quadruped, but they're all essentially the same kind of length. If some of the like the front ones are considerably longer and it ends up walking a little bit more like a silverback, there's something there.
Yeah, like a 3-point stance. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. Look at these tresses. Some things in the chat here. People are saying it looks cute.
Okay, so I'm gonna do this. Get this sketch going kind of quick.
Okay. So you do
bust out our old good old lasso tool.
Mm-hmm. Have you used Kyle Webster's lasso fill?
We were talking about it. Like I was thinking about. Okay, here's the truth. That tool is not. I don't like it.
Oh, is it
tool,
because you want the ability to also fill just half sometimes, kind of thing?
There's a couple reasons. One is that sometimes happy accidents occur when I'm doing a fill. Another is that when you have that activated, I like to be able to use my lasso tool to cut away as well. Like I'm using it in a lot of different ways. I'm using it to, get into a spot and take out a bit of negative space in exactly the right spot. And when you have that activated, anytime you release your selection, it will fill it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Where I'm wanting to, I basically want more control.
Yeah. Like
I could see maybe if you're just in the sort of building or filling phase, but I just don't work like that. It's more of like a back and forth between additive and reductive mark making or subtractive.
This makes sense. Yeah, you want the latitude with the thing. You don't want it to just do the one function.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see you take it where you did like the main body mass in one go, and then you're doing the legs and the arms separate rather than trying to get them all in one go. Do you think that's something that lets you get more energy to it, or what's the thinking behind this?
So sometimes literally, like I usually will do it in multiple passes because it's like easier to control things. Doing the single, like trying to get it all in one go, is more because it's fast and it's fun to watch. That's really because it's like a more exciting magic trick, to show you guys like, look, oh shit, like that's the actual truth. Like when I do it in one go, it's because it's cool. It's cool to see it happen like that. Like I can technically go through and do it all in one thing, but usually what I want is a bit more control, and that comes with being able to like reset where my cursor is on the screen and adjust a little bit, sometimes zoom in. Whereas if I'm actively making the selection in that moment, it's harder to zoom in. You can't zoom in while you're making you're continuing to build your selection. Can't flip canvas.
I started using the pen tool for this. The pen tool does the things that the lasso tool does, but you have edit undo for point placement.
Interesting.
Yeah. So you just hit P and then you can just like lay down all your points. And that made a massive difference for me.
Okay, so just getting that body going. I'm not necessarily pleased with those legs, so I'm gonna just cut into them a bit until just.
Okay. Okay. Do you usually establish a ground plane?
Not always, but in this case, it's just kind of I'm just kind of doing it for fun
Mhm.
here. So I've got that leg. I may actually pull the horse leg, over to this side because it's going to be larger. It's going to, like this, I actually want to hang down and feel long. Oh, that's crazy. I'll just leave it there for a minute. Okay, I'm just gonna leave it there. That's kind of crazy. Okay, now we're gonna bust out some shadow shapes. Let's see here. This way.
Now, there's a person in the chat here. I don't know if this was a typo, but Rexy Rex says that you're going to lasso a duck out of this unicorn. You're going to lasso the duck out of this unicorn? Is that?
Maybe it's like they're like trying to say a naughty word. You know what I'm saying? This is
I'm
another reason, bro.
sure,
Here we
yeah.
go. Check this out.
What is
Everyone
this?
on the internet. This is fucking sticky keys on Windows.
It's
Okay,
a
this
ducking
thing-
city.
Yeah, it's
sticky
a
key.
ducking sticky keys. So every time I'm trying to do my lasso tool stuff,
You can
it's sort
turn
of
this
like
off.
I know I've tried and it like doesn't stay off. Like you get Windows updates that will reactivate it. It never stays off. So basically, I'll be trying that. That is why I've actually been having issues just doing my sort of. I forgot about that, like continuous lassoing stuff, because freaking sticky keys, dude. It's so annoying. Anyway, so it's partly I have to do it out of necessity. Okay, bottom plane there. Boom. I'm actually going to shrink this page, guys. Let me pull this here. I'm going to shrink this down. I want to be able to flip canvas quicker, and I don't want all this negative space over here because it just makes the whole fluid. Okay, we got a bit of something going on here.
I like the little bit of details in there. It's kind of like an implied texture currently that I think is doing a lot. Someone in the chat here, Reza, is asking if you work traditionally too. I've seen you work in clay.
Yeah, I work traditionally in. I guess I could show you some stuff here real quick. Most of the time, I start in pencil. I feel like I draw better, just like more naturally in pencil.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like I don't know. It's probably just because I've been doing it longer. I feel like I have a hard time getting like the same quality of line work on the computer.
Okay.
Yeah, I do work traditionally. I do most of my idea generation, like early process, in pencil. These are all on 11 by 17 pages.
Mm-hmm. I'll get ahead of the eternal question. What 11 by 17 paper do you use? Is it like a Strathmore, Canson?
Yeah, I think it is a Strathmore. So yeah, it is a Strathmore. Shoot, I don't have the cover of it, but
It's the it's the yellow one with a little bug, right?
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Oh, that's my son's drawing. Sick. He's.
Wait, I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger so they can see.
Bro,
Here we go.
It's like a knight fighting some crazy dragon.
That's awesome.
I have it dated, I guess. Bastion Flanders, January 2023, 7 years old.
Beautiful.
That's cool, dude. Anyways, yeah, I use 11 by 17 paper. My son also uses my paper. It is expensive.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a generous sheet of paper to let your kid draw on.
I know, dude. Yeah, that's true. Anyway, so yeah, I work traditionally. I've done a lot of painting, but I've never quite like really cracked it to a point where I'd say I'm like a really, really good painter. So, or I don't know, or I'd say I was like a good painter. I'm an okay painter, but I love painting. I love oil painting. I like it a lot. But I like sculpture more. I've spent a lot more time sculpting. This is actually Alec Brubaker's drawing. This is not my drawing, but it's somehow got in my folder. He is awesome. This is a really good drawing.
Those are strong. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the man. Yeah, I do a lot of stuff in pencil. I love to sculpt. I've been sculpting since I was a kid, like maybe 12 years old or something like that. Here's some of the drawings from the Monster Lab course where we just went through the process of how I would take like the initial pencil drawings and clean them up and then just apply a couple different treatments. It's not rocket science, but the point was to show you guys how you could take drawings and make them a little bit more interesting by introducing color, increasing contrast. This taking it even a little bit further by introducing some like a thematic focal point. I'll often refer to it as like, it's a lot clearer that it's a pumpkin guy, right? Because they have the orange heads. There's just all kinds of fun little post-processing things you can do to make just push your art.
I'm actually just going to drop one of the videos that you're talking about here in that chat. I also I'm asking everyone in the chat to give me a collective sticky keys in the chat. So as many people as you can. Let's let Windows know what we think of sticky keys.
For real. It's like impacted my workflow. Like whatever programmer over there or person got paid to like improve that shit for all of us, like that guy needs to get fucking stoned, man. Tar and feather. Get out of my life. Sticky keys. Get out of my life. I'm just kidding, but I don't like it, man. It's really annoying. Pisses me off. Anyways, yeah, a lot of time drawing. This is I do mentorships and teaching and stuff, and I've done a lot of drawings, and some of these ones are okay. There's some that I like, and here's some sheets that are cool. But I've done a lot of drawings that are just thrown away, that have just been recycled because they are not good, and they only served to help me get better, and to improve, or as part of the process of, one way to think of it, it's like a numbers game. Like you got to do like 50 drawings to get like 5 that are any good. Or at least that's the way I look at it, right? Or same with my sculptures. Do 60 sculptures to get 10 that are worth a damn, But anyways, I spent part of the reason I do this too, guys, is to get that practice in while on the job. So it's to continue to get better and train, because when you start working, you don't get as much like designated time to go to like class and practice your fundamentals and stuff. Like it's harder to make time to do that, especially once you have a family and other responsibilities. So I'll try to make time to learn as much as I can about us, as opposed to just going and grabbing some reference, which could help me come to a solution faster, because I can just use the damn reference. I can just copy it. I could trace over it potentially and then build, into my own design. There's a lot of strats you can do to be fast. But for me, part of the point is to think of, invest in myself and my career in the long term, to make sure that I'm like, sort of, just, taking that into consideration. So if I'm drawing something that I haven't drawn much before, say like little octopus guys or tardigrade bears, then I want to spend some time rehearsing. I mentioned this in the Monster Lab course. Rehearsal is a big part of what I do, and it's part of where you learn. Once you've drawn something like 50 times, you'll never forget it. It'll be a part of your toolkit for the rest of your life, and that's pretty cool. Like I really like that.
Absolutely,
that part of the process.
So here we're 53 minutes in so far. How long do you want to?
I'm down to go for all. If people are having fun, if we have people,
okay,
I'm down. It's kind of up to you guys. I'm down to go for a bit because I'd like to do some lateral exploration. I'd like to just give this like a real opportunity for people to, if we actually have people here.
There are people here.
Yeah. Then let's keep going. I'm okay because it's like actually, let's actually raise some money and shit.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to make sure it's good with you. I do have some questions as you're drawing.
Okay.
So a person was asking, how do you limit the usage of brush strokes? I think you're kind of showing a little bit of that right now.
Interesting. I think that is just, I honestly don't think in that way, guys. I don't think like, I could only do this in this many cuts. Like, one cut, kill. I don't think that way. It's just about trying to find, the shapes and combination of, lines and rhythms, and it's a lot of it's intuition. That's like that's the actual truth. So
Mhm.
the intuition emerges as a result of all the rehearsal. Okay, so I don't think like how many strokes does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop, to get to the center of a unicorn. It just take the time necessary to make this thing something that I believe in, that I believe looks good, you know, and that could take a long time. Sometimes probably too long, not fast enough to be a really really good concept artist. But that's part of how I work, and that's part of what it takes for me to feel good about the work that I'm doing, that it is well done, or that it's of some quality.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, it's more about putting in a lot of time practicing, a lot of what some people would just call like the doodling, right, or sketching. I think there's there's like two things in terms of drawing. I'll write this down for some of you guys who are students if you're interested. Um, I think there's like two things. I've heard the questions posed like, should I do more drawing from life, or should I do more or should I do more drawing from imagination?
Mm.
So life drawing or drawing from imagination. Chicken scratch from imagination. Now, I've heard James Gurney talk about this, like on his Gurney Journey blog, and he had really good things to say about it. This is the way I think about it. I think you need both, but I think the sort of the ratios in which you engage in these things will depend upon what your goals are in your art, or what you're trying to do in your career.
Mhm.
If you're really interested in realism, if you want to be like like a really high caliber illustrator, say like a person like a Carla Ortiz or Tyler Jacobson, if you're trying to work with realism, then you need to become really good at drawing from life. Like you need to
Mm.
become really sensitive to visual relationships. You need to be able to look at something and draw exactly what you want from it. You need to have the kind of training that a guy like Stan has, that they do at like Watts Atelier. That's what you need.
Mhm.
Now, alternatively, if you want to design stuff for a game like a League of Legends, or I don't know, let's think like any number of very stylized products or games or companies, then you're going to need to know how to draw from imagination. You're going to need to be able to, like, think about it like this. If you need to design, if you're tasked with designing a set of armors or weapons for a game like a World of Warcraft or Diablo or whatever, something like that, you're not going to get those shapes from life necessarily. Maybe some part of the initial idea, but in order to like iterate endlessly and generate just unending content for your products, like for the games you're working on, um, a lot of that is going to come. It's going to be a result of like taste that you develop through a lot of designing from abstraction, through a lot of development of just like personal taste, and that comes from, in my opinion, it comes from drawing from imagination or doodling.
Yeah, I would
So
agree. Very much
yeah,
so.
so basically, you need both, but you need to, as you begin to mature or develop in your skills, and your plan becomes clearer to you on what you're really going to do. I wouldn't worry about it too much early on while you're like really young, because you may not necessarily know yet. It's just do both.
Yeah,
Do
find
a bit
what
of
you like.
both. Go to the life drawing sessions, train in that stuff, but then carry that sketchbook and spend time doodling in it. I still do all the time. I spend much more time drawing from imagination. My sketchbooks, I always have one. I have one right here off to my left, and it's always full. I use those Leuchtturm sketchbooks. It means lighthouse in German, I guess. I learned about them from Karl Kapinski,
Mm.
and they're like the best sketchbooks. They're awesome, and I'm always they're terrible drawings, but it's where I'm just practicing all the time. I'm getting in my reps, all kinds of things. It's mostly like stuff for work, or just personal projects I'm working on, but I'm always doing that, and I think that's where a lot of the sort of like if there's stuff that I'm doing with shape that's good, it's a result of all that. That's where it's really coming from. Okay.
Yeah, I think like imagine if you were like that I'm only gonna eat the one kind of food that I had that one time, and I'm only gonna do that forever. And you just never tried some other kind of food, and you're like, "Nah, I'm good with mac and cheese. I don't need to try Chinese food ever." Then you would just make just bad mac and cheese forever. Like, expand yourself, try some new stuff, do all the things until you find the things you want to do. Eat all the food is what I'm saying.
All the fish.
There are a
I'm
couple-
going to start some of the lateral exploration stuff. I don't know if those of you guys maybe seen me do these things before. This is where I'll, in order to sort of like speed up or prevent myself from being too obsessive about, one particular iteration, so I can cover more ground, try different things out. I'll just drag out some variations. It's a pretty common part of concept art, doing something like this. I'll take that sheet. And it kind of helps me stay zoomed out, and make bigger decisions. So, like, earlier we talked about weapon horn. Okay, so I'm remembering that woolly rhinoceros, the European woolly rhinoceros I mentioned earlier. It had an interesting horn that almost had a kind of a portion that sort of bowed out, or it was like enlarged at the tip. It's really interesting horn that can give me a cool shape. Say we talked about the Hercules beetle version. So let's take that one.
Like this.
I don't like their shape though. This part, okay, the way he's angled here, this should not be so high. So this is what I mean. Okay, if I'm using lasso tool, if I was using that plugin right now, this would fill where I don't want it to fill. I want to use it to cut, So anyways, I still think that tool is pretty cool. Part of it is if I was a smarter businessman, I would just be like, yeah, buy my damn, I'm shape carver, buy my damn plugin, but that's not for real. I didn't do that. So it could be cool. Part of it is that I'm sort of like stuck in my ways a bit. I've like practiced my hand-eye coordination for doing this stuff is so set in stone that introducing a variable like that will throw me off. I don't like it. Like it's not necessary. I've already got it. But if you're sort of just developing and you're practicing your use of this like process, like using the lasso tool and stuff, try it out. Because maybe it makes it, if maybe you're being more methodical than I am, and you're going to like first block in your silhouette completely, before you go back and refine any edges, then maybe that could be really good. You go through and you do a blobbier or like a less precious initial silhouette, then you switch your tool over and you go back and refine. That could be a totally viable way to do it. It's just not how I do it at the moment.
Yeah.
Probably would be smarter, to be totally honest.
I don't know. I'm with you though. I think if something's not broken and it's not something that has too many steps that you could refine down, it's probably fine as is.
This is my real opinion. Is that I believe it's people. I think it's like, oh, this shit's hot right now. Let's make a tool that we can piggyback on shape carving. Sick. That's my real.
So there are a couple people asking similar questions here in the chat. They're asking how you keep yourself motivated and not burnt out. Another person was asking, what do you do when you feel like doing nothing?
That's not a thing. You don't get to do that. What do you? But we'll talk about it. That's great. What do you do when you feel like doing nothing? Well, realistically, you probably never do nothing. You're probably doing something else. You're probably doing video games or fucking around on your phone, or you're doing something, right? I wouldn't be too hard on yourself. That's probably one thing I'd say. We live in a world right now currently where we are being hijacked by some of the most intelligent people in our society that put their huge brains toward generating algorithms and systems that will take over our simple monkey brains. Like, it is really hard to not look at your phone. It's really hard to not be tempted to go onto Instagram. That's why I don't have TikTok, because I think TikTok is probably even more addictive. Like, they're engineered to take over our minds. So don't be too hard on yourself, I guess, is what I'm saying.
It'd be great if you had it though, because then I could tag you whenever I go to post one of our videos where I use your work. I can't tag you on
again.
Twitter,
if I was a smarter businessman, I would be on TikTok. That's like the truth. And maybe I'll try it eventually. I don't know if they figure out.
You just park it, and then don't install it, and you just have it where it points to your website so people can tag you.
Oh, that's smart. Yeah. Anyways, how to stay motivated. I don't want to be too much of a downer there, but I kind of mean that stuff. Like, we live in a challenging time in our society where the human mind is being pulled upon in ways we have never experienced in the entire history of our time on the planet. So don't feel too bad if you find yourself getting distracted, because we are all getting distracted. Any of us who use phones and computers and play games are being distracted. The things that have helped me is really my son and necessity. It's like, if you don't have a choice, you've got someone who's counting on you who needs your attention now, then you don't have a choice to be distracted. That's been probably the biggest game changer in my own life, is just having my son. And when I'm with him, I have 50-50 custody of my son. And when I'm with my boy, I try to make him like he is my utmost priority. And that can be challenging with work. But the time I do get with him, like I hang out with my son. We do fun stuff together, and I try to stay away from my phone, and I try to stay off the computer, and I don't do as much work. But that puts me in a place where I can like really engage and be present and get the most out of that time. And then the time I'm not with him, I can really focus on the things I have to do. That's, the stuff comes at a kind of a cost, but worth it.
Absolutely. I hear good things about having kids.
It's the best. I mean, I'm not saying like go have kids, because then you'll be a good person, but kind of, but kind of. And I think that's something that's kind of like hardwired into all human beings. Like, it's just out of necessity. It's like when you have this other thing pulling upon you, you just do not have as much time to be focused on yourself, to be self-centered. You don't have the luxury to be caught in your own head. And I know I get caught in my own head a lot, get stuck in my own thoughts and become self-critical or whatever, just all kinds of weird shit that we do. When you got that little kid, like that takes up that bandwidth that you might typically spend, churning your wheels, being a weirdo, instead you got to go, you got to make lunch for your kid. You got to talk to him. You got to take him to school. You got to,
I do think it gives you it makes you approach what you do with your time with intentionality also.
Yes. Yeah. Well said. Yeah.
So at this stage right now, where you're at, so you've got a couple different variations you're refining.
Yes.
Do you find that it's beneficial for you to focus in on one, or do you just kind of like start throwing shapes at stuff willy-nilly, like the one on the top
It's
left,
not really
the
nilly.
top
Like,
right?
I am kind of like, again, I've mentioned this before. It can be challenging to attempt to, at least for me, to like be a good communicator and make cool art at the same time. So part of this that you guys are witnessing is me, ranting and stuff like that. So then I stopped working. I'm not making so much progress. But in general, what I'm doing right now, what I'm actually attempting to do, is take some of those prompts that we listed out earlier when we were going through the areas of opportunity. The rhinoceros horns, that got me thinking of rhinos, and that took me to I like the woolly rhinoceros horn instead of the elasmotherium. I may try the elasmotherium horn in a moment. I liked the stag beetle thing. So I'm trying those out on these variants. So I'm like taking those things we pulled from and attempting to use them. I'm not going to use them. Those were a lot of good ideas, but I don't want to combine them all. It's like you don't want to take elasmotherium horn plus rhino beetle or Hercules beetle horn plus whatever, right? That's like using too much of your design currency in one place. However, I would like to see I want to test them, see what they look like. So I try them on these variants, and then, potentially I'll kit bash. And yeah, so basically you're seeing me kind of go too slow and futz around a bit, but that's because I'm talking, and it's also normal. It's just part of this process for me of like streaming and teaching and stuff. I've found that if I want to create good art, I need to be able to get into a flow state, and I need quiet for me personally. If I want to be a good teacher, then I need to not try to make good art, in the moment, fair. At least.
Yeah. So how do you feel? Do you want to talk about your process and what you're thinking through things, or do you want to try to hit questions while drawing?
Let's still do the questions. It's just, as long as you guys are okay with this, like not being the coolest. If it turns out okay, sorry. but I like the answering the questions is fun, and I think it's better than me just vegging out and being quiet and trying to make this the coolest thing ever. So
okay,
as long as you guys are okay with this sort of general pace of like sometimes there's some progress and sometimes there's not, then I'd like to just keep chatting with you guys, answering questions.
Yeah. Fun. Yeah. Oh, I like that. Like the pivot of the head there.
Yeah, exactly. I need a little.
Yeah,
different.
I think this is strong. Someone was saying that they were wondering, how do you deal with consistency when drawing? They feel like their work is never consistent, and they can't seem to replicate their style to stay consistent.
Well,
Give them a deep one.
yeah, because they touched on style too. Like I've heard a lot of artists touch on this too. The style thing, I wouldn't worry too much about the style thing. It's like it's a natural outgrowth. Don't stress too hard about it. It has a lot of value. It genuinely does. Like people, again, one of my heroes, a guy like Mike Mignola. Part of the reason we all love him is because of his style, right? It's like if he didn't have that style, it wouldn't be what it is. It'd be something different. And a guy like Kim Jong Ji, like that, it was his style. Like you know, that stuff matters. It carries a lot of weight. So I'm not saying like don't worry about it, or it doesn't matter. I'm just saying when you're young, when you're first starting off, it's not that big a deal to not have one yet. And if you just think about it from like a practical or like common sense standpoint, you haven't made enough art and you haven't lived enough life for it to make sense that you will have developed a style. It's something that is a natural outgrowth of time and experience and experimentation, a continued like clarification of vision over time. Like you'll just like in everything, like over time you come to learn what kind of person makes a good partner for you, what kind of person you like, what kind of people you like as friends, what kind of food you like, how you like to dress, what kind of vacations you like to take. All those are preferences, right? That they become clear to us over time. It's the same with art. It's the same thing. You can make all kinds of art. You could watch any number of endless tutorials and you could copy them and you could make cool shit. The question to ask yourself is which tutorials do you try, or which experiments do you do? How do you feel after you do them? After you try a particular way of working out of working out some art. How do you feel about yourself? Was that cool? Was it satisfying? Do you feel proud of yourself? Do you feel like you got a good result? Or did you feel like you're pulling your hair out? Did it feel unnatural? Did it feel inauthentic?
Mhm.
That's the kind of stuff I tend to pay attention to, and that thinking in that way is going to lead to a natural emergence of style in your work. It's just being conscious, asking yourself questions, paying attention to your instincts, your impulses, or your intuition when you're doing things.
I agree very much on this one. There was a person who said something in the chat. They said consistency is repetition replacing spontaneity. I would say that consistency is repetition supporting spontaneity.
Yeah, again, it's one of those things that's like the sort of like this or that answers I feel like are just kind of bogus a lot of times in life in general. It's like there are as many ways to approach being an artist as there have been human beings who were creative in the history of life on our planet.
Mhm.
If you go to a place like the Met in New York, there's so many different ways of making art based on regions, like where a certain person was born and the tools they had around them and the things they were trying to do. And I guarantee you could talk to some other concept artists who would tell you like everything I'm saying is like real dumb. You know what I mean?
Yeah, everyone
Yeah,
has a different approach.
yeah. So I've mentioned before, the way I'll usually try to frame things is like there are typically multiple paths, and the key thing is to pay attention to how you respond to the choices you make, how you feel about the choices you make, the results you get based upon the choices you make. I've mentioned the idea of designing from abstraction before to my students and in posts and things in the past. And when you mention being spontaneous, okay, something like I'm doing right now, there's a certain amount of spontaneity occurring in the art because I'm not looking at reference. I'm drawing from imagination. I'm just kind of screwing around as well. Um, Drawing from imagination or designing from imagination or from abstraction can be a really, really cool way to generate fresh ideas and shape combinations. And you can get really neat stuff from thinking in that way or working in that way. For example, I shared some old drawings from Evolve in the past when I was working on Evolve, I was very junior. Just didn't have any kind of process thought through or anything like that. But I was learning some things. And these are examples of like designing from abstraction, right? I did have some ideas, but these notes are almost, I have a feeling they were applied after the fact, where I was initially just, look at these searching lines, where I'm just, these are bananas. Like it's just a crazy amount of lines. And then I find forms and then begin to develop them. And there's some coolness. There's something there, something to be said for stuff like this. However, this is not a helpful way to work if you're trying to design like a person. Like people, there are like, only so many ways a human body structure will like play out or exist in life. You're not going to have like limbs popping out of limbs and all this crazy body horror stuff. You don't get that unless, you're working on a zombie game or something where body horror is featured. In that case, if you were working on something like that, designing from abstraction becomes a really cool way to work, like a really neat tool to come up with never before seen combinations. But if you're trying to make something that is like literal, that is representing like a real person, a real identity, a real artifact or object of clothing or gear, this isn't as useful. I haven't found it as useful. And it was something I struggled with. I was pretty good at doing this, but then I'd get other tasks and I would really, really struggle. And I didn't really understand why. I would approach it always the same way. And then eventually I did begin to understand. It's because I was doing this, where I was just sort of sitting down and hoping for magic to occur, for something wonderful to emerge out of the abstraction. But that's also not like that doesn't equal a consistent way to deliver something cool.
Yeah.
Like you can't count on that. It means you're more likely to have like good days at work and bad days at work. Because sometimes you sit down and you make something from abstraction and it's just ridiculous, but it's not useful.
Yeah, there's a lot of that in whenever we post like anything on like shorts or anything like that don't really have nuance. Where we'll post something that's talking about like scratchy lines, or that was today's short, and people will respond with saying like, "But I like making the scratchy lines." And the thing that I usually end up saying to these people is that it's if you're fine with if you're making the exact marks that you want, awesome. But if you're just relying on happy accidents for something, that's not really a way to live and make art consistently. If you're just purely waiting for happy accidents, you're going to be disappointed. If you can find something like a process that works for you, that lets you actually make something with intentionality really often, you'll be so much happier.
Yeah, or at least like, okay, this is how I'll when it's like for work, I try to make sure I'm using a process like most of the time. So again, if I'm working on a zombie thing or some monsters, the designing from abstraction, it's kind of a fun opportunity to get in there and make some crazy stuff. And that's like a neat luxury. I really love it. But most of the time, the designing from abstraction, or the sort of free play in art and the way we did it when we were kids, I reserve for personal work. Like that's at home. That's when I'm messing around on a sculpture, and I don't plan out the sculptures quite as much. I'm not making big sheets of 11 by 17 coming up with all my ideas for sculptures. Maybe I should. Maybe a better sculptures. But the point is, to allow myself to play and relax and do something different. And to someone asked earlier about how do you stay, inspired, or just like how do you maintain throughout the process of like being an artist. That's one of the things I do to maintain my, I don't know the right term right now, like I don't know, life force or energy, or just to keep things fresh and keep myself like happy and I guess psychologically healthy as a creative person, is I do things that are different than I do it different than the things I do at work. I don't go, shape carve all day for work stuff and then after work clock out and do more shape carving, for one thing, you're going to get like carpal tunnel. You're going to get problems. Like if the way you work for fun is the way you work for work, yeah, it might be good strategic, from a business perspective, to just generate way more content that is consistent with expectations of clients or media or whatever, your audience. But you're subjecting your like physical body and your mind to the same monotonous, repetitive movements, and I feel like that stuff can wear on you. You know, I've got herniated disc.
Goodness.
For real. I've got, I'm serious. Like this stuff adds up, man.
Absolutely.
In your life. And so you got to change it up. So I get out into the garage and I'm standing up at my studio and I'm sculpting and kit bashing. And I do those things because they are not connected to work. It helps me relax. I'm not thinking about the pressure of like, oh, is this thing going to be cool for social media or whatever? You know, it's just, this is a thing I'm making because it gives me great joy. And that helps me feel good about life and hopeful about art and what I'm doing, and gives me the energy to keep going. You know, something to look forward to.
Yeah, absolutely. There are a couple of, like, I think, simple questions here. Some people had some like bigger, more like arts education questions that might be a little bit outside kind of the thrust of this particular stream, but there are some people asking questions that are specifically for you.
Why did you throw away all your sculptures, you a-hole?
Did you throw away your sculptures?
Yeah, it's like a thing, dude.
Oh man! Oh man!
That thing, I got some flack. It was funny, dude. So like,
goodness.
It's okay. I was just kind of kidding. Okay, what's the question?
So there's a person who's asking, like, while shape carving, do you have a specific part of the character that you enjoy doing the most? And just for the rest of you guys who think I'm answering the question that's the most recent one, just because it's most recent, it's not. I have your questions written down. It's just, that's a good Scott question. Okay.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there is. I really like doing this part right here that I was just doing. Like shoulder. It's like shoulder, forearm, like this integration right here of like the front part of the deltoids into the pec. You know, this whole area I tend to enjoy quite a bit. Or like, let's do another one really quick just for the demo. I'll draw this out. Make this a little more of a horizontal piece so it fills up my screen aspect ratio.
Yeah, you do have an odd aspect ratio. Is this like 4:3? What is this?
I don't even know. I don't worry about that until the end. Sometimes I'll go through it and think about like, oh, is this gonna be a print? Like, should I make this 11:17? It's more about making sure that the image itself creates like a feeling of like visual harmony or balance. You know, I'm looking for a feeling of balance. So you'll notice, like in all my sheets of iterations, I'm quite obsessive. Like I very rarely will submit something like this unless I just run out of time. I hate this. Like, dead space. You know, there's nothing in there. That's like a perfect opportunity for something cool to exist. You know, like that really bums me out. Like I'd rather spend the time to come up with another really cool iteration as opposed to deliver a sheet that feels like in balance to my eye.
Okay, for people who don't work in Photoshop, the way that Scott got this very straight line was just holding shift while drawing. You can do it horizontal or vertical. That's it. But it's very handy when you need it.
Okay, yeah, I was going to show you guys. That's what I'm sorry. Take this back to just the grayscale and show you how I'll do let's get a head on there too, actually.
Oh, I like this. It looks like a javelina howling to the moon. That was cool. Like, who's that like the pig-headed character, the Mignola character?
I don't know how to say his name. It's like Grugouch, or I do not know how to say it properly. It's not an easy one. Okay, cool. Those legs look terrible, but whatever. Let's keep going. Okay, so yeah, this is my favorite spot to do. So like a bit of shoulder, come in here in the chest. Like, I guess actually my favorite part is like the whole thing. My favorite thing is when I sort of come in here and start to hit those spots, like drop the leg back in the shadow, come in here. I like going under the jaw, that like mass in the in the, I don't even know what you call it, just the big old chewing muscle, masseter or something, probably. I don't know, I forget.
Yeah, like that sounds right. That sounds very, very correct. I can't get there, but that sounds good.
I like doing that.
Do you have names for muscles, like shorthand names? Because I have one for
what is it?
It's what is is it the like right here on the ribs? There's that section of the small little muscles.
Oh, that's serratus muscles.
Yeah, I call them the riblets.
Riblets, that's
Because I refuse to learn the actual name.
This is good. Anyways, yeah, that's some of my favorite stuff to do is to like block in this initial area and create that like that first impression of some dimension. Like I get a lot of satisfaction out of just that right there is like throwing that lower body back into shadow and having the beginning of like suggestion of like planes and stuff. I
Mhm.
think that's pretty fun.
Yeah, I can. That's a rewarding stage in this because
Mhm.
it goes from being just like an ink blot to a thing that has mass.
So there's the elasmotherium kind of horn right there. That big
Mm,
swollen, and I'm gonna take it and take my perspective tool. Looks
warp
kind
it
of
a
funny,
little bit.
like a dunce cap. I like that. It's funny.
Yeah, and so when you were changing the corner up there, that was you holding control and grabbing the corner.
I went to the distort tool.
Yeah, what was it? Control T.
Well, that Control T will bring up, from what I understand, Control T will bring up like the basic transform tools.
Uh huh.
But it will not bring up like the more advanced ones. Maybe there's a way to like additionally. I never really thought about it.
Yeah, I always do Control T, and then you can move the one corner by just holding Control, I believe, and then you move just that one corner on it.
Really, let's see. My man. Oh, oh those are blowing skies. And this is why you should not listen to me and probably buy the lasso tool plugin because there's better ways to do things. I am a caveman, dude.
No, there's nothing wrong with this. Yeah,
Do
everyone
this
ends up
way. Do this way.
coming.
10-year. Keep do this way. You know.
Then make fire with lasso.
Do this way forever till end of day.
So what is the thing that you think like what's the suggestion you're chasing right now? You want to give them like an opposite form to that big horn, you think?
Um,
To kind of weight it,
I
balance it?
think sort of unconsciously is because I mentioned the elasmotherium thing, and they're like a woolly rhinoceros and they have all this fur. So I think that's why I'm. But that is what's going on. I think I was doing it somewhat intuitively, but that makes sense. Even it's sort of there is a kind of like now there is a sort of like curve, counter curve, like an inversion. You have the shape going out this way, balanced by a shape going this way. I was not doing it consciously though. I was actually more
Mm,
guided by just the general concept of this woolly rhinoceros. And I like the idea that a lot of the creature would be sort of like um, more nude or like, you know, he's not necessarily all covered in hair, but like some of these lower portions, like part of the mane, the underbody might have some like fur hanging down. That's really where I was
yeah, I
going.
like this idea. Like it's again the amount of hair that you have coming from something, like just hanging off of something in a few ragged areas, it really suggests so much in shape. You assume like a little more brutishness, like wildness.
Yeah.
Uh,
Now, for those of you guys like I don't know if you're wondering like how I go ahead and push something further. Like I could probably push on these for quite a while just from imagination, trying to make them better. But this is something I don't often touch on, or just haven't really. I don't know. Maybe it hasn't occurred to me to like point out to students like when I've been doing these demos. So now that I'm thinking about it, it's a good time. Um, I've been teaching my son sort of secretly, trying to not make it seem like I'm
mm,
teaching him, so I don't like bum him out or make it lame. But I've been trying to teach him things as he's growing, and one of the things he's really starting to get, and I'm observing him getting it, and I'm observing how much of a difference it makes in his art, is him learning how to use reference. Like the difference between when I ask him to spend some time looking at some things and kind of filling his head with, say he's going to work on give me 1 minute here. I'll show you
oh yeah,
something pretty
absolutely.
cool.
My parents also did this with me. My mom wasn't like the biggest artist in the world, but she knew some stuff, and so she would try to push me towards trying to draw like and redraw some stuff from different comics that I liked in the newspaper. Uh, it makes a big difference, I think, to a kid.
So he did these sculptures the other day. He's getting better all the time. He's such a good little sculptor. He loves to sculpt. He'd rather sculpt than almost do anything. In the evening, we'll put on a
Oh,
movie and then he'll sculpt.
there you go. Yeah.
So he did this dinosaur
What?
the other day. I swear to God, I helped him
What?
mount it on the base, like, because it was gonna fall over. So I put a pin in here and I drilled a hole in this wood and hot glued it. He, I showed him how to apply the teeth initially. I put in like 4 or 5 teeth. I showed him like make a little thing and you put it on the outside and then you put a little noodle over that like the gums and blend it. I showed him like the most basic shit, and the rest of it he did himself.
That's
He
nuts.
did
It's
the
such a
pose.
dynamic pose too.
I know he's been watching a lot of that Prehistoric Planet show on
Mm,
Apple Plus, the David Attenborough. It's like the best dinosaur documentary that's ever existed. But he did this. This came about, part of it from imagination, but because he's been spending so much time absorbing this material, but also because he busted out some reference. I gave him a
yeah,
dinosaur book. I have a really high quality one, and he spent time looking. And he
that's
took time to
crazy.
really think through the pose, and then he put feathers like all over it, like huge,
Dude,
huge feathers. Dude.
it's nuts how good how old is he?
He's 8. He just turned 8.
That's insane.
Look at this one, the Pachyrhinosaurus head. He did this, bro. I was super impressed with this. I didn't touch this one a bit. I didn't touch this at all.
That's
This is
nuts.
sick.
I really like the suggestion of the way that he's adding the clay on, like with like the larger bits, it comes out looking kind of like plates.
It's true. I know. I was
It's
trying
good.
to. I know the. I had to be careful to like, because I was, the artist in me wanted to be like, well, it's like the lesson about drawing hair. It's like the meme sort of like, don't draw hair by hair.
Yeah.
You don't draw it. You draw it in that whole
That's
thing.
our
Don't draw it
highest,
stand by stand, strand by strand.
that's our highest performing short.
Yeah, yeah. I know. That's what I mean. Yeah, it's like the memeiest like art lesson ever. Like you do it in groups. Anyways, I wanted to do that. I'm like, well, feathers. I tried to, and he was not having it.
Mm,
And I like that part. I was like, it's really important. Those of you who have children if you want to encourage them as artists, if you have any hope of something like that, you need to remember for yourself, like when you were a kid and you were learning art, did your parents critique you? Probably not. They probably didn't give a shit what you were doing. They were just like happy that you were doing, that they were able to get the things done they needed to do and that you seemed entertained. There was no one like breathing down your neck or trying to improve your art or anything like that. And that's
mhm,
part of why you loved it, because it was a place where you could be free and relaxed to do something of your own, explore
mhm.
something of your own. And you created like a really positive memory for yourself that you would continually go back to, every day as you work. If you start, doing that whole thing, like, well, son, feathers aren't really rendered like that, like you're gonna crush them. So the
Yeah.
best thing you can do is like, I think, is not, like I said, like not teach, or you do
Mhm.
it in a way where you got to do it strategically. Like you got to be smart about it. Because there's like two stories that made a really big impression on me. One was from a book about Andrew Wyeth, the like really great fine artist, the son of N.C. Wyeth, the illustrator, fantasy
Mhm.
illustrator. And Andrew Wyeth is like largely regarded as like the greater artist in a lot of ways.
Mm.
I think that's like, I don't know if that's like really the appropriate way to frame it, because NC was like amazing, like awesome. But a lot of people say stuff like that. And someone was asking him like about his childhood and if his dad taught him art, and he's basically like, not really. What his dad focused on was creating a really creative, curious, playful, imaginative environment. They play a lot of games of the imagination, a lot of designing of costumes and props, a lot of exploring, a lot of interaction with the real world, the natural world. And collectively, all those things filled his brain with visuals, with the raw materials that he could later draw upon to be creative.
Mhm.
That made a huge impact on me. It wasn't like, oh, this how do art. It was, this is how you live as a creative person. And that's what set him up for success. And then
Yeah.
alternatively, I watched a documentary called Painting with Fire about Frazetta and his kids. And I don't remember, I don't know if I remember it fully completely, but basically there's a bit in there where one of the sons was like asked about, like, did your dad ever try to teach you art? And I just remember the reply and the story that was told, and that part being not sounding that cool. Doesn't
Mm,
sound like it
mm.
was that cool.
It's too
And
rigid.
too rigid, or too much expectation, too much sort of
Mhm.
like ego or domineering, too much dominance or whatever. And It's the last thing you want to do for your kid, like a budding identity and a creative personality. You have to like let their little ego, their sense of identity, you have to let it like flourish.
Yeah.
You got to get out of the way, basically.
Yeah. So I'm gonna do a thing here. I'm gonna have your drawing camera up. I had us just on faces for a moment there. I want to remind everybody that the thing that brought us here is doing the fundraiser that we're doing to try to help this fundraiser support the people who were so unfortunately affected by the recent disaster in Maui. There's a link in the description where you can buy a print that supports those people of Scots. Proceeds from that will go to help that foundation, Maui Strong. There's also a direct link if you don't want or need a print right now. Maybe your wall's already covered. It's okay. We understand. If you got a couple bucks, help them out.
Yeah.
And then I want to do a rapid fire round. Let's get like some nice, short, concise answers on stuff.
Okay, sounds good.
If you find one that's just like a yes or no, just give
Okay.
them a yes or no. That's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to make sure and get all your guys' questions in here. Oh, also, before I forget about this, everyone is just blown away by your son's sculpture. There's one person here.
Isn't he awesome?
They never comment on live videos, but I'm so shocked. It's legitimately awesome. Your son's a sculpting prodigy. Like,
it's really good, dude. You know what?
It's
Okay, you know what's the
crazy
best,
good.
guys, too? I really appreciate you guys saying that stuff because I tell him these things. I tell him on purpose. Like, I show him because I know you guys are sweethearts and people say nice things. And then I tell him. I don't let him on social media, but I'm like, bro, all my friends, like, they liked your stuff, dude. They thought it was like so cool. And then he'll see him like all cute, be like this little kind of like little smile go on his face, like little cute, little proud moment, like, oh, he's like trying to be humble and be like, and then go about his business. And I'm like, oh, hell yeah, dude.
Okay, so someone's asking, this is a Proko question. When are y'all going to do the thing where you give the community a prompt or something and then review it? That's the community challenges. We kind of stopped doing the community challenges for a little bit. It's not something that we're planning to do each month or quarterly right now. It's something that I think we're keeping for special occasions so that we can then, if there are any prizes or anything like that, make those really worth your guys' time. There's a lot of questions out there in our communities about people making art just for other people, kind of like getting content from those people. And we don't necessarily want to make it seem like we're just using you guys for content, so we want to make it special when we do it.
That's right.
And then there's one here. They're asking you if you are a fan of Phil Hale.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's obviously like, there's some artists that guys like Mignola, Phil. There's some artists that really have laid the foundation for what all of us are doing, and so many young people now like don't even know that that's the case, and that to me is like kind of weird and tragic, like because of the way social, again, my long answers, maybe I should shut up, but all these
You're good.
because of the way social media works, like social media incentivizes broad appeal, right? So you can have Mr. Anime artist person be like fucking 2 million followers, right? And Phil Hill has like not enough for the contribution that he's made to all of us. It's like ridiculous. Yeah, that guy's like the man, dude. And that's like a genuinely creative, like that's a person with vision, right? Like that he's just following his own, like what he wants to do. It's not about like what's hot right now or what's going to get him the most clicks or help him sell prints or whatever bullshit. It's just like, these are the things that I feel are worth creating. And making. That is so cool, so admirable.
No, I agree. It's a shame sometimes when something that's genuinely fantastic and adds to the world just doesn't necessarily get clicks or likes because it's just not in that algorithm mill,
I know. Yeah, it's gross.
We have another. I think this one we kind of addressed a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and get this one out of here. How do you draw the same face from different directions? Is that something that you have a particular process on?
How do you draw the same face from different directions? Well, I think that's mostly about visualizing it. Like for me, it's like seeing it in my mind. There's a really good exercise you can do, I think, where you take a thing, like take a simple object, not a crazy one. Take something that is kind of dear to you. Say if you've got like a pet cat. You got a pet cat that you love. You've probably seen that cat run all around your house and do all kinds of things. Close your eyes. Imagine your cat. Seriously, do this right now, guys. Try it.
Close them.
Close your eyes. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
You'll see, for real. This is real. Close your eyes. Imagine your cat in a side view. Imagine a cat in a side view. Now, turn your cat. Imagine you're in like a 3D software or something, okay, and you're like pivoting around your object. Turn your cat to a like a top-down view. Imagine a cat from a top-down view. See it in your mind. Now turn it. Imagine a cat from below. Imagine you're, I don't know, laying underneath a glass coffee table and a cat walks over it. For some reason, that's happening right now, and you see your cat from below. I'm getting some kind of crazy.
Yeah, I'm putting music. I'm putting music behind you.
But seriously, guys, like, okay, I'll stop that. But that's actually the way, if you really want to. A lot of the way I'm drawing here, which is more just kind of going from the seat of my pants and, trying things out and then cutting away. And there's a certain amount of impulsiveness, like just going for it. And if it's not good, I'll fix it. But if you want to like hit it on the first try, like a lot of what I believe someone like Kim Jong-gi was doing is he could literally see it in his mind. Like he had that projection, and I don't know him. Right? I don't know if this is true, but this is what I always suspected. Right? Is that the guy was so high IQ, he could literally like hold the thing in his mind in abstraction and turn it around in 3 dimensions.
Oh yeah,
and he probably spent some time thinking about that. Like kind of practicing that, going through that. And I personally don't do that all the time, and that's probably what's the term? That's apparent in my art. Whereas if you spend, it's the measure twice, cut once thing applied to drawing. I don't always, to be honest, I don't like to work that way always, because I like the happy accidents and the, moving back and forth and the energy and the cutting. Like to me, that's all kind of part of the fun, actually. But if you were going to be a human printer, like if you're going to make a thing as it is from your mind in one go, I think that visualization is key. I believe it's really key. People like Claire Wendling, she could like see things in 3 dimensions. She can move a thing around in her mind. Also very expressive as well. But, I think that's part of what she's doing, is she's like seeing a thing and she can kind of visualize it from different angles. Someone like a Stephen Oakley, who I used to work with at Turtle Rock, amazing creature designer. I believe he's kind of doing a similar thing. It's like he can be gestural, but I also believe he can like, it's almost like he can turn the thing around. It's like he can see it. And that's not an easy thing to do. And from what I understand, I believe that has something to do with IQ and the ability to, conceive in to visualize abstract forms. And I'm probably too stupid caveman to be able to do it quite that way. But it doesn't matter. It's just like, if that's something you want to get good at, spend a lot of time doing that kind of exercise and thinking in that way before you sit down to draw, as opposed to sit down to draw and see what happens. Sit down and draw, fill your head with a given thing, absorb as much as you can, close your eyes, see it in your mind, then go sit down to draw it. Yeah. I think that's a good way to do things.
Yeah. No, he talked about it in one of the videos that we did with them, how he like envisions a space that he's been in, like kind of works that space around in his mind and places himself in different spaces to look at something from a different angle. We get a lot of questions about how to make that be a thing in your mind if it's not already something that just exists inside of you. One of the things is, if you just can't find that kind of just being able to place yourself around like that, is just to draw a lot, draw often. It becomes kind of innate. Learn to break things down into base forms, just primitive forms, cubes, spheres, cylinders, and then those things all apply. When you know those basic forms, when you go to put them together, to turn a head. Even if you've drawn that head for the very first time from imagination, when you rotate it and you go to draw it from those primitive objects, you'll realize that this, like the sphere into like this bottom part of the mouth that's more cubic, is just off, and it becomes something that you can recognize like from a distance. We do have a lot more here, so
Let's go for it.
yeah. The next one here was asking about drawing the body from different views. So I think everything that we said for the face and characters, all the same stuff
Same
applies.
shit. Yeah, same stuff.
Mhm.
I typically will use reference for that stuff, guys. That's the
Oh
when I'm
yeah.
drawing from imagination, there's like certain poses that I've sort of like absorbed or spending a lot of time thinking about and rehearsed a lot, and so I have them like committed to memory, and
Mhm.
they're kind of like go-tos, especially for things like demos. I can kind of count on them, you know. But if I'm trying to like spice things up and do something really different or really capture like a particular pose for some, I don't know, some different character, I'll spend some time rehearsing, gather some reference.
Mhm. Yeah, reference is important. Like, a lot of early artists, they think drawing from reference is either the only way to do something or it's a cardinal sin.
Yeah.
It's somewhere in the middle. Like, you should do it, and it helps a lot, but you don't necessarily have to either. But it will
Yeah, like
help so much.
the way again I think about it is it's not a if this or that. It's like you'll have like a relationship with reference that you'll develop over time. That
Mhm.
you'll eventually clarify like when for yourself, when do you bring in reference? When does it become an important thing for you based on the
Mhm.
kind of work you're trying to do? You know,
Yeah,
it's almost
absolutely.
always going to help you like push introduce some higher fidelity like almost always. I just tend to want to. It's again part of my process of rehearsal to see what I know. It's a kind of a test, or like what I know
Mhm.
and what I don't know, and it's way I get practice in visualizing by trying initially to capture a thing from imagination, but then after the fact, when I want to push it, I'll have a nice reference sheet. Like, let me show you. Well, actually, kind of like I guess I used something like this on one of the old a video we did for it was like a Proko and Vision X Live. It was a convention
Mhm.
collaboration. And I'll take something and I'll surround it with relevant reference images. And these are like very like pointed or specific conscious choices. Like I didn't just grab some random stuff. These are ones that I really thought like are going to help me. They had some very specific piece of information that I liked that I would probably end up drawing upon in the character. So I'll make something like this, sometimes more, sometimes significantly denser in terms of the reference. There could be way more on it. Let's see if I have some examples. I would do these. This is one of my favorite ways to do character. Let me find one, a good example. One of my favorite ways to like start the character design process, if I have time, is to do this kind of thing, where say
Mm.
I've got a team of concept artists and I'm going to go present an idea to them. I'll do something like this first, where I'll do my 11 by 17 explorations, all my notes and ideas and thumbnail drawing. But then after the fact, because this is kind of like crazy mad scientist stuff, I'll go back and take like some of the best statements or ideas. I'll isolate them and list them here in some initial bullet points. So I lead with language in my presentation, communicating the idea.
Mhm.
Then I show reference images that to me they're analogs. So they're things that are meant to like evoke a particular image or an idea to help the person start to like fill in gaps on where I'm going with the thing and what it can be. And then I'll follow it by, follow it with my art, my character art. And I have found that those three things together help create a pretty distinct, like a pretty clear picture for people, because you're hitting them on a lot of different fronts. There's some people that are really visual and they need to see a thing like a thing to get it. Oh, that's like this. Now I like it.
Yeah.
And some people are more like language based or like verbal, right? And it's really going to help them to have it described to them. And then down here, you have the sort of proof in the pudding where you begin to bring those elements together and show what it really could be. That's how I like to to do this stuff and use reference.
Yeah.
I'll create it's like a cheat sheet or something.
Yeah, you're being an art director for yourself.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. And that's good practice because someday maybe you'll be an art director and you'll
Mhm.
be helping out your team developing stuff and do the same shit. Here's like some early explorations for the redesign on Volbear. I just threw some ideas in there
Mhm.
in the early stages. And so yeah, kind of hit some pillars that I think are interesting, narrative pillars, just key ideas, some thematic focal points, like parts of the design that are going to be cool. That's sort of what we did in our list making on this unicorn. And then I'll go through, here's my analogs. Those are very pointed, very specific, the kind of feeling we're going to get. And then some art that attempts to bring those analogs together.
Yeah. There was a question I think that fits into this. Someone was asking if there's a separate job for creature design.
Yeah, for sure. But so, imagine you're working for a place like on Evolve. Evolve is a game where there's a lot of creature design needs. So because there were so many creatures to be designed, then it made sense to have someone who was like a designated creature designer. But say on a game where maybe there's only one creature or no creatures, you're not going to have any creature designers. So it's, companies that have a lot of money and a lot of projects are more likely to have specialists on their teams. Places like Blizzard and Riot and places like that, they can afford to have their scalpel tools, their specialist artists.
Yeah.
Or smaller companies that are a little scrappier, have to be real careful, or they want to run with a real small tight crew. People tend to be they're going to have to do a lot of jobs. Yeah, it doesn't even mean they may be a scalpel at some things, but they've taken on a lot of responsibilities and tasks in order to make things work, So yeah, it just depends. But yeah, there's definitely there are people that make their whole careers out of just being creature designers.
Yeah.
But here's the thing to think about, guys. So this is what I always tell students, if you're going to attempt to do something like that, to be a specialist in that way, you need to really, really love it. Like it needs to be your favorite thing ever. You need to be good. You need to become good at it. And you need to be okay. You need to accept the possibility that it may mean that, there's repercussions or consequences. There may not always be creature design work or people who are looking to hire, especially when you're young.
Yeah.
As you become really good and you become like a Stephen Oakley, he's getting hit up to do stuff like that all the time because everyone knows him. But when you're young person who hasn't made their name yet, you may struggle for a bit. While if you want to hold out and really be stubborn, and I've known students like this, I only want to be a creature designer. That's all I'm going to do, or a character designer. And I'm like, cool. And I knew which ones it was going to work for. It was those ones that were so good, so dedicated. It came natural to them. It was who they are. They thought in that way. They were going to be able to accept that period where they were going to have to struggle and take less gigs, but they would get there because they were genuinely good at what they were trying to do. And they loved it so much that they would just invest the time necessarily to arrive at that point eventually.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, like you said, don't be afraid to do a little of other tasks. Sometimes you learn something else that will help someone else in some other job by doing other jobs.
It's true. When I was on Evolve, I did texturing Fallout. Man, I had a hard time with it.
Texturing is rough,
but I did actually learn a lot, and it was ultimately good for me. It's just not something I think I was really cut out to do in the long term. But I textured some shit, man. A lot of stuff.
That's a hard job.
UI, I've done all kinds of stuff actually. Never as sort of the main guy. There's always a lead who would sort of take you under their wing to help you, as you're kind of helping them get things done. When you want to be at a studio full time every day and get paid consistent money for every day of showing up at work, you need to be okay with taking on that kind of stuff. If you're smart and you're hardworking, you got some taste, good listener, you'll be fine.
Honestly, that's perfect. That's the requirement for working in a studio environment. All the things that you said.
Yeah.
Without those, it's not going to work for you.
Yeah.
Someone's asking. So like, I'm just going to use these last two questions that I have written down here. I know there have been a couple other like questions here in the chat, but there's one who's asking about sculpting. Do you use soft clay and an additive process, or harder clay with a more subtractive process?
Both. It just depends on the clay. So, I really like this AV's epoxy sculpt. It's like my favorite material, but it's not for the faint of heart. It's when it firms up, it's really it's really cool because it's permanent. But then that's also part of the challenge with it, is because whatever marks you've made, or whatever condition you leave it in after it, before it sets, once it cures, it's hard as stone, and you can't go back and make changes easily. And that can be a pain in the butt. And you need a lot of tools, as I've been learning over time, to really be able to get the most out of that material. Dremel tools, and you got to learn about wet sanding and all. It could be kind of a pain in the butt. And so it's not, if you're really trying to make something like super polished or high finish and high quality, you got to be in for the long haul if you're going to go down that route with that kind of clay. If I would say for beginners, like if you're like new to sculpting, two directions. Monster clay, I would say monster clay hard. There's three different hardnesses. There's soft, medium, and hard. I would say hard. I get my son hard. You microwave. You just put it in the microwave, and it'll get soft, totally malleable. That hardness isn't really something you worry about when you're sculpting with it. It's just after it sets up, it will be pretty damn firm, which I like because it helps with stability. So like in early days when you're learning about armatures and posing and body weight and stuff like that, that hardness is going to be helpful towards helping your sculpture stand up or just keep its form. Also, that hardness allows you to practice rendering. You're going to scrape into that thing and carve away at it. You're going to learn about rake tools and ball tools for blending, and you might use an X-Acto knife to cut into it. So that I would say monster clay hard, and I would recommend the gray. They came out with a new color recently, like maybe a year or two ago. The gray is really nice because it's a middle tone, and light works nicely across it. You'll get like nice cast shadows and volumes, and it just the forms read nice on that gray. The designing monsters class, that's the clay we're going to use. The sculpting component begins in week 4, and we're going to use the monster clay hard in the gray. So I'd say that, and then Sculpey, good old classic Super Sculpey. But Super Sculpey is cool because you can bake it afterwards. That part's always fun. You spend a lot of time on something, you want to like put it on your desk and feel proud or whatever, give it to someone. Sometimes that's a challenge with clay, because like this monster clay, if I set this out in the sun or something, it's just going to melt. You leave it in the car, it'll melt. You put it next to a window, it'll start to warp and melt. Leave it in the garage, it'll start to warp and melt. And that's a bummer. For like a kid, you want them to feel, that can be like disheartening, to see all this labor they put in. It feels like a waste of time if it just falls apart. So Sculpey, you can go bake it, but the sort of common or the main version of Sculpey, the bad part about it is that after you bake it, it can become brittle. And so it cracks really easy and crumbles. So there are certain steps, like things you have to learn to get the most out of it. I really like a new clay. Very expensive though, so it's not the best for beginners. It's called Cause Clay, like brand new. It came out maybe a year ago or 2 years ago. Cause Clay. It is so cool. It's a polymer clay, just like a Sculpey, but after you bake it, it remains flexible. Hold on, I'll show you.
I'm typing the names of these these clays in here for you guys. I know I would be curious about what the actual name of these were. I think we're probably pretty close to wrapping this up, just so you guys know. But Scott won't know because he doesn't have headphones on. We'll tell secrets right now. If you guys want, since he's not here and he can't hear the secrets, if you guys want to say more awesome things about his kid's sculpture, please do that.
So this is some of the Cause Clay. This is a little...
Oh, it's a good white too. Is it like is it like a little translucent?
It comes in different colors. This one I bought. I have a Discord, like a kind of classroom, and we do different projects like every month. One of our first ones was Moby Dick in Hell. And one of the weeks we were designing different sea monsters versions of Moby Dick. And so I was using this clay. I'd actually bought it for my son to experiment with because this glows in the dark. That's
Oh,
why I bought it. This glows like super strong, like a beautiful blue green in the dark. But you can get it in all kinds of colors. You can get it in a flesh, a gray, all kinds of colors. I just bought the glow in the dark one. And I was
yeah.
thinking, it occurred to me that it could be fun to use because it was white and Moby Dick is white. But check this out. So that's armature, that's floral wire. If this was Sculpey, that would crack and make
Huh.
parts would crumble off. Like, look how that's so cool. Look at the horn.
Yeah, no,
Now
it's staying together so nicely.
this becomes really neat. Say you're sculpting teeth for a monster or
Uh-huh.
horns or claws, parts that would typically be really susceptible to cracking and damage. What I'm going to do in the future, and I have a couple bars of this clay left over, is I'll save it, make a bunch of little teeth and horns, claws, talons, tusks, whatever, make a lot of that ahead of time, bake it, and then I have those in like a little tube. So when I'm sculpting and I want to like throw something into a character and try it, different teeth, I can do that. And then I don't have to worry about, if it's going to crack after the fact.
Yeah.
It's going to be perfectly tough. So this stuff is amazing.
Huh.
Cosclay, Cosclay, but quite expensive. So, you got to like really make a plan a bit in terms of your armature. And I wouldn't use it to like bulk things out and be,
Yeah.
I use like monster clay for that. This monster clay, this is the brown. And one thing that's cool about monster clay is you can melt it down and reuse it. So me and my son did that because I got so much freaking hate for throwing away sculptures on the internet. Most of those were the AV's epoxy sculpt, which I'll talk about in a minute. But so I was like, okay, well, I shouldn't. Well, I definitely won't throw away any more sculptures. Fuck. So we took all the monster clay ones. I took all the monster clay ones, and the ones that we weren't using anymore, I put in a big glass bowl in the oven at kind of like a low temperature, and they slowly, all the clay melted off of it. Some of it dripped into the oven, and then it like freaking smoked at my house. So you got to be smart with this stuff and really pay attention and do some reading on the internet, or ask some questions. Hit me up if you want to know some best practices and stuff, or get some tips on how to do it and not light your house on fire or your oven. But what's cool about monster clay is you can reuse it. So it's great with kids. So if you got a little kid and you want to give them like a high quality sculpting experience, don't go buy some bullshit Crayola modeling clay. Buy monster clay. It's like $30 and you get a 5-pound big old bucket, tons of clay, and you can reuse it indefinitely. So have the kid sculpt like he's done here. When he gets over this sculpture, he doesn't care anymore, and he makes something like way better. You can melt this down. You just throw it in that thing, put it in the microwave for 1 minute. It'll melt down, and he can reuse his clay again and again and again and again. So that's one reason I like it. And it's of a higher quality material. So your kid is getting, you're not giving them bullshit materials. Don't give your kids bullshit materials. Like,
let them use the real stuff.
Yeah, let them use the real stuff and like figure out a way to make it work. Spend some time to figure out a way to give them a good experience and not, break the bank.
Yeah, reusability seems great.
And then this is the AV's epoxy sculpt. So this stuff is developed by a it's hard as a rock.
This is the one part of it. There's a sculpture that Christian has here. It's like a little red guy.
Yeah, that's Christian.
It's made from this, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, this is actually like my favorite material because the inner caveman in me likes the permanence. I like the solidity. I'm a giant fan of like bronze sculpture, but getting a bronze cast is like if I was going to get this cast in bronze, it's like almost $3,000 or something.
Yeah.
It's not, and I also wouldn't even necessarily, bronze casting, that's like when you make something amazing, you don't want to lose it to time forever, but for me, I just want something that has a little bit more of that permanence. It's really satisfying, but again, it comes with challenges. So like this forearm was too long, so I had to cut off the hand. So then later I'm going to have to like repin, sculpt a new hand. Those are the kind of problems that could come along with using a material like this. But again, the benefit is that you get a beautiful permanent thing.
Absolutely.
That part's cool.
So I think that pretty much answers all the questions that we've got here.
One last thing that just occurred to me. Oh. So here's like an example of the print, by the way, guys. So I have like a physical copy of it. So again, if you're interested in supporting the Maui Strong Fund, helping people out over there who have, gone through the terrible fires recently, here's an example of the print we're selling. You can get that, and 100% of the proceeds from sales will be donated to the Maui Strong Fund. It looks pretty good.
Is it like it looks good in matte? Like it's not like
Yeah.
a cheap print that's really shiny and high gloss.
Yeah, I typically go. To be honest, this one might have looked better in satin, or because of the type of image it is. There's photo bashing and stuff going on in it. Where usually the more graphic flat stuff, like that looks really good in matte. So I just printed this in matte because that's the way I've been thinking to do it, because I do everything else in matte. But that one actually might have looked better in satin, to be honest. But it still looks okay.
Okay. I guess here I'm gonna go ahead and bring back this screen that has the art here. Is there anything that you want to do to kind of like take any of these a little bit an extra way here in the last like 5-10 minutes? If not, that's okay. The main things I want to hit are, if you want to do anything here on these, mention where people can join that course that you've been talking about, and then just general where people can find you online.
Yeah, we'll probably. I don't know if I like these enough to like really push them. I guess I could show you a couple things really quick. There's some things I do, and then we'll talk about those other two bits. Sometimes I'll do this if I'm trying to. I have some like strategies I'll do to try to make something cooler than it really is. That sounds lame, but it's just you're trying to do everything you can to make your art just to make a good impression and make something that looks cool and exciting to look at. So I do all kinds of little like post-processing tricks that are intended just to make a better viewing experience, you know. So I'll do this. Pardon me, I got to get rid of these white. I have these little white fragments, I guess. That I've got to delete. There. I got those in place. Cool. So I'll do these little like vignette windows, and those kind of help to draw the eye up to the part of the body where I want the viewer to be focusing. They create more focus. So right now there's not a lot of rendering, right? Like barely any at all. And when I get rid of these, it still works. Like maybe white is actually the best way to do it, but I just want to show you what I would typically do here. That actually is pretty striking, like pretty fun silhouettes. But I'll do this because it draws my eye up to what is effectively the bust, like in a sculpture, right? The upper body and head. Those are typically the areas you want to be more rendered, to spend more time, specifically the face. You want to pull out that profile. This is like an important piece of information, that horn and the face. So I'll do something like that. A lot of times I'll do a little frame. You guys have seen me do that before, probably. I do that frame because one time it occurred to me, I was like at a modern art museum, and I was thinking, like, I was looking at a Jackson Pollock, and I was like, dude, if I just saw this painting like leaning up against the wall in my garage, I would just think it was something that someone threw down while they were painting to prevent from making a mess. And I was like, but the fact that they put it, it was the way they presented it on a particular wall in the middle with lighting. Sometimes they're in frames. It's all that extra details that go a long way towards convincing the mind that you're looking at something worth looking at, something cool. And that made a big impression on me. I was like, man, that's interesting. It's kind of fun. So if you're doing art that's like really sketchy or rough, like presentation can go a long way towards introducing like a nice point of contrast to your work, you know? Again, it's a bit hacky, whatever, but I actually like it. I think it looks cool, but it's something that I found just kind of helps consistently. It's like saying, this concept art, this is real, you know, like this is real. Believe me, this is concept art.
I think I think that it's just an extension of the idea of like lead lines and designing in general. It's just a further element of that in presentation. It adds a very, very good touch.
So then I'll introduce a bit of color, like not too much, but just like a tiny bit, just a little bit more visual interest. So like in my shadows right now, I'm bringing a bit of like a bluish, like, let's see here, a bit of just increasing contrast, a bit of bluey purple that I like. Pull out yellow. Let's see here, this. And go to my grays. Cool that down a bit.
There we go.
Not too much though, not too much, just a little bit. So it's honestly like pretty subtle stuff. Let me change it in a second here. Okay.
Yeah, anyone watching on a phone right now is gonna have a hard time, but this is making a difference.
And I'll run like a noise filter on there. I'll make a new layer set to gray. Put
Yeah,
on noise filter.
50% gray overlay,
Yep.
and
I'll
then hit it with your noise.
hit some noise, drop down the opacity. This is, I guess, simple stuff. This one.
Can you zoom in on it a little bit so they can see the effect of the noise?
It's very subtle. Again, it's one of those things. Once I run chromatic aberration and do some glow effects,
Mhm.
it'll be a little more apparent. I'm gonna do one other thing here real quick. I'm gonna take a duplication of that layer and I'm gonna do a render effect on it. I do like an omni light. That's gonna bring some focus to the center of the piece and a bit of gradient or fall off to the outer portion of the image. I take that layer and I set it to darken. So now you'll see there's a bit of fall off to that outer edge. I'll drop opacity on that a bit. It's pretty subtle.
See, this is the stuff that I love in Photoshop.
Now, then you couldn't just leave that. Sometimes I'll leave it, but more often I'll do this. I'm about to. So I'll grab all the white. Turn off contiguous. Contiguous means like when you make a selection, it will only grab those pixels which are directly in contact with the pixel you have selected.
Mhm.
For now, it's going to grab any pixel which shares that value or property of a white. So now let's grab all white pixels within the selection. I'm going to go through. I'm going to delete out the part that had that gradient.
So it pops.
So it pops. So the white part still
Mhm.
pop. See that? But I still get that little bit of bowing out towards the edges on the dark.
Yeah.
I'll flat, make a stamp, duplicate it again. Then I'll grab all my whites, invert the selection for the whites, delete everything out of there. Now I have all those whites on their own layer. I'll show you. You can see if I take all those whites and adjusted the value. Obviously, I don't want that. So
Yeah.
next, I'm going to add on a outer glow effect to all those pixels. Now,
This is my favorite stuff.
but here's the thing. In this case, you'll notice, check this out. The tiny pixels are being affected because I had my threshold for my selection set at, I think, 30%.
Mm-hmm.
So it's grabbing all these tiny, lighter pixels that were in the noise layer. And that's a freaking problem. So I have to do this over again really quick.
I'm curious to see. You said
I make the selection, but I have to go up to tolerance and drop it down to 5. So I will only grab like pixels that are true white, and it's not grabbing anything in here in the grays.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll do the same thing. I'll go to select, inverse selection, delete out the information I don't want. Then add on and adjust a layer style for outer glow. Bump up opacity 100% so I can see it, like what I'm doing.
Yeah, like when you're applying a glow effect, usually the thing that I like to do is this, where you just make it incredibly apparent. Like just take it all the way to 100 and then pull it back to where it's acceptable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because it could get out of hand, and you guys see me use the glow stuff, and I see you guys try glow stuff sometimes, and it's like, I'll usually sort of try to pull back, like err on the side of conservatism, like be more conservative with the glow. You could always pop it like more intense in, areas like the eyeballs or whatever. So it just adds like a kind of neat, just like a neat quality or atmospheric to it.
Yeah.
I do my dust and scratches thing. I have a file that I just use like a general texture that I'll throw over the top.
Was this Texture Labs?
This one, no, just some other brand of internet.
Okay.
I think maybe it is.
Yeah, because there's I do Texture Labs on Patreon, and it's just the best textures, Scott. They're so good.
Okay, I will check it out.
And they're all free.
This is one I have had since I just did like dust and scratches texture like way back in the day, and I have like a few of them, but this is like my favorite one. This particular file just gives me some nice little qualities. I'll put that on there.
Mm-hmm. Just something to make a digital hard-edged thing feel more tactile, real, and physical.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll do this, like, okay, so I've got like a texture brush. I'll sample that gray. I'll drop opacity, and then I'll go and hit some texture on into the shadows, almost like bounce light or information, just to make the shadows a little more interesting than just the flat black. I've got a particularly cool brush I've been using recently that's a lot of fun for that. I bump up my tolerance so I can get these selections clean. Bump it up to like 50.
See all these marching ants out here.
No, too many. Cool. Okay, so now I've got that texture in the shadows. I can drop opacity a little further. It's just adding like these subsequent layers of information. Okay, then bump up levels. I get this. This is like my export process that I'll just sort of do at any time. If I need to just stop on an image and move on to something else, or I have to go somewhere, pick up my son or take a call or whatever, I'll do this. So I always have like different, version states of all my images that even if they're rough, they like look kind of cool. I never like have a state of my image where it just looks like I said, where there's like a giant portion that's just like empty negative space. That really bothers me when that happens.
You could still turn this in if you need something deliverable.
Yeah. That's the idea. That's the idea. When I was at Riot, I would, at the end of every day, I would send just like whatever I was on, whatever state, to my lead. So you also have that like continuous record of your productivity. That's what I did. With that particular art director, and it was really nice to have that. It's like you have that the record of your work. It's like smart thing to do. Okay. So I ran that, then finally do some sharpen filter stuff at the end. Actually, first I'm going to shrink it down. I go to 1080 high. Then sharpen.
And these are all tricks that you guys can apply to your work, even if you're in a spot where you're like not necessarily like you don't like fully like love your work right now. It's okay. Have some fun. Do these things.
Yeah, give them a try. Yeah, exactly. I save that out.
Are you doing it? You're saving it out so that you can do the RGB thing that you were talking about easily?
No, I already did. I did the chromatic aberration. I already did it. Sorry, I did it like quickly while we were.
What is it that you use for chromatic aberration? Do you use the photo raw filter?
No, I go up into lens correction.
Exactly. Yeah. This is the one I use for this in Photoshop.
Okay. Stan was showing me like a totally different way to do it. I just never thought of, like in channels.
Yeah, channels is the way that most people do it, and you can get like a much more intense result.
Yeah, this is some like cyberpunk 2077 action, but most of the time, okay, the reason I do it is because show you.
I like the other one for being fast, because there's apps like Procreate that have just such an intense one that you can do so fast. Photoshop
this is why I do these guys. When I was younger, I was working at Turtle Rock, working with this guy Moby Frankie, amazing artist, worked on all kinds of projects that have like defined the gaming community and everything we do. And this actually drew Wolf's work, but basically I was working with him for a while at Turtle Rock, and my art director at Turtle Rock really liked Moby's work, and basically in an attempt to basically I was trying to impress my art director, like draw in a way that he would like, that he was satisfied with. So I was trying to learn how to do what Moby did. I spent a lot of time trying. Never quite, this guy's amazing. Never got quite there, but spent a lot of time trying to figure it out. And so I was, Googling his work. And at that time, he didn't have a website. I don't know if he does now. I can't remember if he took it down. But this was only stuff you could find, this work from Dota 2 of Moby and Drew Wolf stuff. And they were like someone who leaked it back in the deal. It's like someone who took photos of prints at Valve. And there's something about it that I always thought was really cool. There's something, it felt like you're seeing secret documents. Like a top secret shit. And I always thought that was kind of interesting, the effect. And I actually was trying to recreate some of that feeling sort of subconsciously on my stuff, or give it like a bit of bow, a bit of vignette, some of that noise, some of that like dust and scratches, like the print got some crap on it.
Lens aberration stuff.
I always just thought that was fun. There's something neat about it. And so it was sort of like reverse engineering effect I thought was neat. Yeah, they, it's just incidental. Like they didn't, and those guys weren't trying to do that. I just thought it was cool and tried to, anyways, just showing all kinds of crap.
Grounding the work that way, I think, makes a big difference. For anyone here who's in that chat, you've mentioned a couple different times the course that you have going, where people are doing some of these like unicorn assignments. Where can people find this?
Yeah, so I'll show you. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I've taught. Okay, so I've like taught. I used to teach at Laguna College of Art and Design. Taught some classes at Brainstorm, and had a good time. Learned a lot. Met a lot of amazing students and stuff. However, when you teach at a place like that, like there's a lot of money that like say the administration at an art school takes for themselves that does not end up. It's the teachers who are doing the teaching, and the teachers. To be honest, the teachers get kind of screwed. And so it's just occurred to me over time that eventually I'd like to teach on my own independently with no third party taking a cut or anything like that. I like teaching. I love teaching. If I want to teach my way, I can, be myself, say what I want to say, like, teach the ideas I like to teach. And so this is my first experiment with teaching, my own independently run classes. I'm very excited to do it. I'm teaching designing monsters, silhouette and shape design, and character design for games. All three are things I'm quite passionate about. They're going to be 8-week workshops running from September 11th, Monday, September 11th, until October 31st, or October
8 weeks later.
30th. Yeah, 8 weeks later, exactly. Designing Monsters is on Monday nights, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Pacific time. Silhouette and shape design is on Wednesday nights at the same time, 7 to 10 p.m. And character design for games is on Fridays, 7 to 10 p.m. They're 3-hour classes, very small groups, 6 people only getting feedback. The rest is just observers, audit. Where you can just check in, you can watch, you can be a part of it all, you can chat, but I will not be doing feedback on those people's art. But it's a lot cheaper. But those 6 people, the idea is that I can actually get to everybody's work, and we can have an authentic small group, like an authentic networking experience where you really get to talk and it's casual. And you actually get to interact with each other. That's my favorite way to do things. So we're starting up soon. The character design class, I'm pretty sure might have like one more spot left. Designing monsters, I think last time I checked, had 2 spots left. Silhouette and shape design had, I think, 5 spots left. The silhouette class is definitely better for beginners. Any of you guys, if you thought this stuff was interesting or any of my ideas are interesting, that's a great way to start. I think that's if you don't consider yourself to be an especially experienced artist or draftsman, you want to learn more about shape design, that's the class to get into. All my students who have taken that class over the years, they've grown the most after going through that experience. Designing Monsters is going to be crazy fun. If you like creature design and that's a place that you want to take your career, that one's going to be freaking rad. Got some really cool students in there. 3D is welcome. I always encourage sculpture because I think it's good for you and it's fun. It's good for your soul, your creative soul. But if you're just like, fuck that, Scott, I want to get good at industry stuff and I want to use Blender or ZBrush, that's fine. And I'll just do paint overs over, you just send me orthographic renders or screenshots and I'll paint over those. That's what I do with mentorship students.
Okay. There's one other artist here, a very skilled, talented, incredible artist who's professing his love for Scott in the chat. It's Rembert Monthold.
Oh yeah, we love her. What's up, Rembert? What's up, Rembert?
Yeah, so if you don't trust me, you don't trust Scott, trust Rembert.
Yeah, Rembert's awesome. Yeah, we work together, right? I don't think I don't know if he's there anymore. But yeah, right. Rembert and I were over there together for a couple of years. Thanks, bro.
That's about the last thing here. I want to thank all you guys here who have been here. So like for this whole freaking stream, we have just under $3,000 that we've raised here so far.
Cool.
There have been a few different spots where people have donated 50 here, 50 there. So all of that is thanks to you guys, the time that you guys have spent here making this stream get bumped up just a little bit in the algorithm to make sure that people see it. For anyone who is still interested in getting the prints that were talked about earlier, there's links here in the description for both these prints that Scott's showing right now. 100% of the proceeds from that go straight to Maui Strong. Or if you don't want to print, or you just don't have any space for a print, there's a direct link in here and on the bottom of this very screen where you can go ahead and donate just anything that you've got. Anything helps, they can use it. Yeah. Scott, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for hosting it. That was cool. I made it. Thank you, guys. Again, thanks for your patience. Thanks for listening. It's nice to do some drawing with you guys. Thanks for helping me make a crazy monster unicorn. You guys take care.
Thanks, guys.